Okay, we are live. Welcome, everyone. My name is Ben Dunn, and welcome my compatriot Steve-O, and welcome to the AP Dojo, where we talk about all sorts of, you know, pretty much uh,
Wherever the road takes us, pop
pointless
culture
things
stuff.
in the grand scheme of life, but we find very entertaining to begin with.
Uh,
So today we're going to talk about today. Happy Father's Day, for all you dads out there. Happy
well,
Father's Day.
yeah, it's a happy Father's Day to you.
hmm Uh, what we're going to be talking about, we may talk about if we decide, if we have time to talk about dads in comics. But for our first topic, we're going to talk about underrated franchises that deserve to be looked at. Oh, hello, Mr. Dunn, Steve.
Hello, Mehmet Kaya 175. I'm going to call you Mehmet from now
So
on.
recently, a new movie came out, Masters of the Universe. Have you seen it, Steve?
I really wanted to, and it
Mhm.
came out I believe it came out the day I had my prostate procedure. So
Yeah, you better
it
go see it
slowed down.
soon because it doesn't. Hey, fella, hey, welcome, Retro
Hey,
Day.
retro craze, retro days. Hey, I was thinking about you this morning about how awesome cryptic core is going. So,
All right.
uh,
So, and also, Mortal Kombat 2 came out about a month ago.
yep,
And
I did see that.
oh, he did. And so, both of these movies have, from what I understand, not been doing too well at the box office.
Well, you forgot the third one.
What's the third one?
The third one that's not doing well at the box office. It's the big franchise.
What would that be?
It's Grogu and the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Not the Mandalorian and Grogu. Grogu and the Mandalorian. Because let's be real about who gets top billing in this thing.
Well, I mean, those are very much millennials and Gen X franchises. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And so uh, the fact of the matter is, they're bombing at the box office. Why do you think that is? What is the key component, and what franchises that are out there that would appeal to current audiences at the moment? Are there any underrated franchises that are out there that are the millennials, Gen X's, and Gen Z people remember that have potential? Or should we just go ahead and ignore it all and just start from scratch and find some new properties to take advantage of?
So I think that's a lot of that sounds like three questions, but it's more like 10.
All right, well, let's
So,
break it down. Okay, let's break it down.
all
Okay,
right.
so all of those franchises, Mortal Kombat, Masters of the Universe,
Hmm.
Star Wars, all from the 70s and 80s.
Right.
That's the what generation is Gen X generation and millennials. Am I correct?
Well, if okay, so if a franchise started in the late 70s through the mid 90s, that's more of a Gen X thing.
Correct. So Gen
But
X people who were growing up in the 70s and 80s, how old are they now?
right, well, it's fun. It's funny because like I do another live stream with these guys who are older millennials. They're like in their 50s, early. They're turning 50, a lot of them, and so they saw everything 10 years younger than me when they came out. So I'm 59, going to be 60 this year. I was 1966, so it's like the year after the cutoff point for Gen X. And I mean, it's nothing. One thing I'm getting tired of hearing is like Gen X is badass because they drank from the water hose and they were latchkey. It's
Well,
kind of like a lot of that stuff. A lot of the stuff that we did was not because we were badass and did it on purpose. It was just that's the only way. That was the only way you could do it at the time. Nobody was carrying water bottles around or anything like that. You just, hose water was, and it was probably a stupid thing to do. We should probably quit thinking that that's cool.
hey,
And
how,
then
how do you
the
show
other,
comments on this thing? I forgot how to do that. Let's see here.
oh, let me go on with, Okay, so Retro Days says Mask needs a film or streaming series.
There we go. Okay.
Induced Comics says I'm looking for new properties. Mehmet says I personally enjoyed Mortal Kombat movie, but I guess it's because I'm a fan of the whole Mortal Kombat games and movies, I guess. Artmin 100, welcome. 1965 is the beginning of Gen X. I mean, I humble brag, but it's not anything that I did myself that made me awesome. Um, is that I happen to be I happen to see all the really cool stuff at the perfect age to see it. So like Star Wars came out when I was I think 11 or 12 years old. What a perfect age to see Star Wars. And the Halloween movies, I think I was a freshman in high school, or I was in late junior high or high school when Halloween came out. What a perfect age to see teenagers getting killed.
Well, all right. So, I grew up with all that stuff too.
Yeah.
And those were very influential to
But,
me.
but weirdly enough, you were 2 or 3 years older. You're 2 or 3 years older than me, so you were like in high school already. Where a
No,
movie like Star Wars might not as well.
I was 13 years old when Star Wars came out.
Hmm.
That was the perfect age for
Hmm.
me to be engulfed in Star Wars.
Right.
Now, okay, but the question is why are they failing now? Okay, why? I mean, my understanding is that Grogu and the Mandalorian and Mortal Kombat 2 and Masters were actually, my understanding, they're actually not bad films. They're actually
Okay.
quite
Well,
entertaining.
you answered the okay. You've
But
answered for Mandalorian and for Grogu and Mandalorian. You've answered the question right there. There is no world where a Star Wars movie should just be okay. I mean, say what you will about the prequels. Well, it's pretty universally accepted that the original trilogy, every time a new movie came out, it changed movies for the next 3 years. And when the prequels came out, like it or not, you didn't have digital characters interacting with live action characters the way Jar Jar did, and all the experimental effects that went into that movie. Granted, the storytelling suffered because they were trying to jam too much of that stuff in. But every time a Star Wars movie came out, that moved movies forward by a bunch of years. Like you could not have without Jar Jar Binks, you could not have Rocket Raccoon, uh, Dobby, some of the characters from Lord of the Rings, um, the battle scenes from Lord of the Rings. There's like a ton of stuff that, like it or not, if it hadn't been for the experimental stuff that Lucasfilm did in Star Wars, you wouldn't have it now. Uh,
well, this is
Mandalorian, Grogu and Mandalorian. I mean, what about that movie was there anything? I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard enough. I've heard like the film threat reviews and all that. It sounds like there was nothing in that movie that not only had you not already seen in a Star Wars movie, you've seen in a bunch of other movies as well.
well, my wife went to go see Mandalorian and Grogu, and she loved it. She thought it was great. Okay, and I mean, it seems to me that people who are the most critical of it, are the people who are more critical of the Disney leadership rather
Right.
than the movie itself. I'm sure the movie is fine. I haven't seen it. I'm planning on watching it once it comes on the streaming because I'm a cheap bastard.
Well,
But
you and everybody else who, I mean, I'll see it.
I enjoy it, to be honest. I mean, based on what I've seen, it probably is a fun. I mean, what do you expect from Star Wars anyway? I mean, yes, I mean, people forget that Star Wars was intended to be for kids. A lot of people,
Yeah, it was for family.
or it's not for kids, but it's supposed to be for families.
It's for family.
For families. Okay, so it had just in the 70s was a different era. A lot of things have changed since then.
Yeah.
Now, Star Wars as a brand, I don't think is. I think, while it's suffered some damage, I think that it still has a lot of potential. But be it far from me to say, what direction they should take. I mean, the only connection I have with Star Wars in any capacity is I did a bunch of Topps cards.
Okay. But
The
wow,
only thing I ever did, he was remotely Star Wars connected.
are you
You
like those guys that like, I worked for Marvel? It's like, really? It's like, yeah, I did like 3 trading cards for them back then.
Now, Induced Comics says it's retro fatigue. Is that really
No,
true? There's retro
no,
fatigue.
it's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible everything for fatigue. Okay, so there's different tiers to all of this. Like Masters of the Universe, from everything I've heard and seen about it, and I've heard these guys treat Masters of the Universe the way I treat John Carter of Mars. Like it is like I know the races, I know the geography, I know the vehicles, I know the characters, I know some of the Martian words, but and but this was a book that was written for everybody. Like it was the pulp magazines were literally written for. There was no age groups slapped on everything, which is why part of it reads like a romance novel.
If you know the history of Masters of the Universe was an accident. Okay, it
Yeah,
wasn't meant. It wasn't created from the ground up. It was originally, it was really as a Conan the Barbarian toy line. Okay,
well, I've heard that story, and then I've heard that story debunked.
well,
But
that's my understanding is that that's what it was originally intended for. You
didn't
know,
they eventually? Did they eventually make a Conan toy line to tie into the cartoon?
hmm?
Did they eventually make an actual Conan line to tie in with that Conan cartoon?
There was a Conan cartoon, but I don't think it was tied into a toy line. You know,
Okay,
but the fact of the matter is that whether that's true or not, that's what happened. Oh, that's
okay,
what I heard. Is
all right.
they
So
so
what we got?
Masters Universe was a huge hit back in the 80s,
Hmm.
as you know, and there was a Dolph Lundgren movie that was done by Canon Films, and I think that's one of the movies that eventually brought the studio down. You know,
Yeah,
the movie itself, I have seen. I watched it in theaters. And my first impression was that uh, it actually looked good. It's just the story was terrible. You know,
it, so I watched it recently with these guys who love the Masters of the Universe, and we all decided that it is freaking awesome. there there's a lot of things that they got wrong, and then there's a lot of things that they got right, and then there's a lot of things that they got amazingly right considering the time and the resources that they had.
yes, I mean,
Oh wait, this is Flint Lockjaw, our friend Stephen Reed, said Conan the animated series did have a toy line.
yeah, I think it did eventually have a toy line, and it looked very similar to Masters of the Universe.
It probably didn't do very
Ironic.
well either.
So I mean, it would have been it would be interesting. And I think
Mehmet's
that
putting
Warlord
us,
had his storyline too, very similar to Masters of the Universe.
yes, Mehmet's going to get us off track. Since Star Wars is mentioned, I want to ask who's your favorite Star Wars character? Mine is personally Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I'm with Mehmet on that one. Obi-Wan's my favorite, which is why that horrible Disney Plus series it's even worse because it made Obi-Wan terrible. It did not do justice to the character.
Yeah, what's your favorite, Steve?
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't know.
he's a little bland, but who was that? Becky
Hmm?
calling off panel?
Yeah, well, my favorite is probably R2D2.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I love R2D2. He's a great character. He doesn't take shit from nothing. You know, I mean,
Also,
really, if you think about it, he was in every single movie.
mhm,
He did a lot of things that saved the asses of the main character, and he doesn't, and he's a loyal, friend. It never, he's a great character. A lot of
yeah.
people don't underestimate, but that character. So, who's your least favorite character? Or yeah, who's your least favorite?
Wow. Well, I mean, the easy answer would be Jar Jar, but let's see.
Yeah, Jar Jar is up there pretty. But actually, to be honest, I've grown to appreciate that character.
Me
Yeah.
too. I mean, I don't hate Jar Jar. That's my thing too. It's like if I had to pick a least favorite, I'll say, you know what? You know what? And this is going to be, um, uh,
Controversial.
no. Well, this borderlines on blasphemy. to take the heat off of Jar Jar, I'm going to say Boss Nass, because that whole thing was just a little too much.
He's a silly character. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will say and I always get into arguments with every Star Wars fan. Is I think Yoda is the most evil character in Star Wars.
Oh,
He is.
really?
I
Yeah.
do. Someday we'll talk about it, but right now like, we're getting off the track.
And
So anyway,
to
um,
Mehmet, I'm going to tell you, we're if you notice, we're only talking about George Lucas Star Wars, because I'm not. I mean, you could just say like every character in the last 3 movies and TV shows and everything
he's
that's been
he's the
on
reason that
Disney.
Darth Vader came around. I mean, but anyway, okay, no more of that. No
Yeah,
more Star Wars. Let's get back.
okay, all right.
Okay, so anyway,
It's a good
so,
Father's Day movie to talk about, though. But go ahead.
so what do you think Hollywood's obsession is with these old properties that really doesn't seem to resonate with modern audiences, and what properties from the past have they overlooked that might resonate with modern audiences?
So everybody who knows me is probably thinking, "Oh, he's going to say Micronauts," and I'm going to say, "I don't want modern Hollywood to touch the Micronauts until
I would
until
I think Micronauts would be good if they stuck to the original comic book stories.
right,
Okay, any deviation from the modern comic book or from the still comic stories is going to be a travesty.
right."
Okay, it's not going
And we have seen that, because there's been the Devil's Due run. There was the IDW run. I have them all. I've read them all, and I didn't like any of them. It was just and even when Bill Mantlo left and they did the further voyages, or what, the new voyages. Um, it's the Bill Mantlo run, specifically the first 12
yeah,
issues. Although they did have spikes, like when Pat Broderick came in.
Micronauts would make an excellent replacement. I mean, it would make an excellent, substitute for Star Wars
Right,
because it was inspired by Star Wars, but he went on its own and went done his own thing.
right,
And it's a great story if you break it down. It's and the beauty of the Micronauts, or at least the first 12 issues, is that it's a self-enclosed story. You
right.
know,
That's first
you
12
can
issues.
actually adapt the first 12 issues into a movie, and it would work. It
Yeah.
would be a fantastic story to tell. The only thing
Uh,
you probably have to leave out is Man Thing, but
no, it was Man Thing. Captain Universe, you're going to have to dial that back a
yeah,
little bit.
you'll probably have to drop the Captain Universe. But I mean,
Well,
you
I
could
mean,
probably
like,
use it, because it was actually a fairly good part of the storyline.
well, Captain Universe, you just do differently. Instead of
Yeah,
making him a guy in a blue and white costume, it's like you just make him all look like a cosmic, like a translucent cosmic thing, being like a time traveler or something.
sure, but
I may have thought about this a lot, so so, but yeah, I mean, yes, if you stick to the storyline, which they won't. The guy who did the How to Train Your Dragon series was writing the Micronauts screenplay, and then I read a comic book just recently that was given away at the 2011 Toy Fair,
Mhm,
that tied in like Micronauts with all the other Hasbro characters. So that was terrible. I like the How to Train Your Dragon series,
sure.
but they had a cast. They had a cast list for voice actors, or it was like whoever they were casting, and none of the characters were from. They were neither from the Marvel line nor from the toy line. They're trying to make something new out of it. And also, there was a Micronauts cartoon made by an Irish production company that you can now watch online on YouTube. You can watch episodes on YouTube, and it's. I mean, the character names are there. There's an Acroyer, there's a Baron Karza, there's everybody else. But other than they come to Earth, they're like action figure size, and they interact with a kid. There's nothing, and it's all the same kind of MCU kind of jokes, and it's all the same kind of modern anime. The animation voices are grating and all. So no, I don't want them to. That would be great, but I don't want them to touch it. I would have loved to see more John Carter movies, but the director was insane and spent like way too much money
Well, I for one would love to see a Micronauts movie done, similar to the comic books. Now, and also the title itself is great, Micronauts. I mean, come on.
Sure, it implies a lot.
Well, anyway, that's you know, but yeah, I agree with you. Hollywood just screw it up, you
How
know.
about you?
But that's definitely an underrated for now. I do know there was a cartoon recently released, that was I think on YouTube, but it wasn't very good. I
Yeah,
did actually watch a few episodes, and it's like this isn't Micronauts. I mean, it's the trouble is I've been spoiled by the comic. Now, for
yeah,
most people probably haven't read the comic, and probably
yeah.
most people now are not even familiar with the franchise. But I think it would be a great new franchise if it was done right.
Right.
So that definitely would be one of those things that I think would work, on a pretty good level if done correctly.
Right.
So, what about something like the $6 Million Man? Of course,
Yeah,
nowadays with inflation, you probably have to say the $6 billion man.
probably.
But could that be something that could be revived, or would that is that just too 70s of an idea that just wouldn't work, or people just wouldn't care?
So back in the 70s, okay, so $6 Million Man predates Star Wars by a few years.
And they've had quite a few movies, or at least TV movies made.
Right. And the so just say the Bionic couple, because it's like the
Yeah,
Bionic Woman's in there too. If it was me, I'd put in Maskatron for the
there's a
first time.
bionic dog too. Don't forget that.
Hell yeah, I put in Maskatron, Bigfoot. Everybody's going to be in it. But the thing is, like before Star Wars, science fiction, partially because of the special effects, and partially because of that World War II Greatest Generation running the show, you couldn't get too fantastical. Like I remember when they were talking about when Star Wars first came out, you got older people like Bob Hope and Johnny Carson and those guys talking about Star Wars like, oh, that Flash Gordon cartoon stuff. They immediately dismissed it as being for kids. So you had to have, and like my grandfather didn't like Star Wars, but uh, science fiction had to be it had to be very normie based to get that audience. You had to get the old people, you had to get the moms and dads, and you had to get the kids. And usually you just got like an eyedropper of something fantastical in it. Like the Spider-Man TV show from the 70s, it was mostly about him being a reporter, and then they'd use like the stock footage in the last 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes. Same thing with the Hulk. It was like mostly David Banner doing drama stuff and helping people and all that. And then you got like maybe 5 or 10 minutes of the Hulk at the very tail end of every episode.
Well,
And
I don't think it would actually work nowadays, to be honest, because first of all, while it was popular in its day, most modern, most young people probably never even heard of the.
right.
Of
And
the
I think the powers and like when we were kids, they'd like roll back the skin and there'd be like electronics in there. It was like, oh my God. And then you go like try to make a tattoo or draw it on yourself the
To
next day
be
in school.
honest, there are very few franchises or IPs from the last from the boomer, millennial, and Gen X generation have any familiarity with modern audiences nowadays.
Right.
Younger audiences nowadays. I think most modern audiences, they just want something new, something different. Now, granted, there's a lot of IPs from that era that would be new and different to them. They probably never heard of that would
Right.
actually speak to them. In today's, as today's audience. I mean, like for instance, I know that Disney tried to do John Carter, you
Right.
know, and the movie's actually really good, but the problem was that nobody knew who John Carter was.
Right. And there was a lot of frustration amongst the fans, myself included, that it's like, why aren't you telling people this is for people were saying like, oh, look at the fight in the Coliseum with the white apes. And it was like that looks just like an episode the Attack of the Clones Coliseum scene. And like fans like me were going like the Coliseum scene from Attack of the Clones came from the John Carter books. It's like, why aren't you telling people that? And it's like, oh, I don't know what a John Carter is. It's like it's a
Who's John Carter?
100-year-old character, and they're like,
Does Flintlock Tom mean who's John Carter or John Carson?
he's asking who Johnny Carson is. So, well, Flint. Okay, so Flint and I had this discussion on our podcast a while back. A while back, being like 2 weeks ago, I think. So we're kind of talking about some of the franchises we personally like that you can't do anymore. Like you can't do Flash Gordon anymore. I
No,
Mad
I disagree. Okay, well, here's a Crooked Painter says a new Logan's Run. I think a new Logan's Run would be kind of cool.
It'd be interesting.
But you know what I would do if I were asked to do it?
Hmm.
I would not make it in the future. I would make it, near future,
Okay.
because that could actually be an interesting philosophical and social question. Is that would people voluntarily commit suicide at 30, to make the rest of the society better? You know,
Right.
that was the whole question about the Logan's Run. Now, of course, they didn't think they were committing suicide. They, in the movie, I think they were tricked into
They
becoming
were sending.
renewed. You know,
Yeah.
but a Logan's Run reboot would be interesting. And I don't know if people would. I think people would be interested in watching it just to, think about what it would be like if that were a real society. You
Hmm.
know, let's see here. Magnum PI's due for reboot. Didn't they do a Magnum PI reboot? I thought they did.
Some of these franchises at this point, like the star is so closely associated with.
For comparison, I think they did both.
Well, some of these the star of the franchise was so closely associated with it that you almost don't want to. Um, yeah, well, yeah. Flint says the marketing wasn't the issue with John Carter. The issue with
Deliberate
John Carter
sabotage?
was the trailer was horrendous.
Do you think it was
That's
deliberate
true.
sabotage?
Well, so there's a whole book out called John Carter and the Gods of Hollywood, and it's got all the conspiracy theories about why the movie tanked. And there was part of it was that there was a new studio head came in, and there was questions whether they sabotaged it to get him out, to disgrace him, get him out. There was a thing where a movie called Mars Needs Moms came out.
Oh my God, I remember that movie.
Right. So Mars May Needs Moms came out and it bombed. And they said you can't have any movies that have Mars in the title. Now Disney's got like $1 billion princess franchise. The book was called originally The Princess of well, originally it was called Under the Moons of Mars. I know geeks, but it was the book is widely known as The Princess of Mars. You would think Disney would call the movie A Princess of Mars, but then they said, no, we don't want boys to think that we're making another Disney princess movie. And so they settled on John Carter. And then somebody said, that's like calling Die Hard John McClane. Nobody knows who John McClane is until you've seen him kick ass in the first movie. So anyway, there was a lot behind John Carter. And also, so Ben, I'm going to make a recommendation. Everybody, I'm going to make a recommendation. There's a movie called Blades of the Protectors. It's a Chinese movie that just came out this year. If you can find it on streaming, oh my God, watch it. The fights and the sword fights. It's the guy who directed the fights in the Matrix movies. He directed it. The stars are great. The fights are great. The costumes, the special effects. I haven't enjoyed a Chinese movie like that, and I don't know how long. And I was sitting there thinking, if they had made the sword fights in the John Carter movie look like this, maybe I don't know if it would have been a super hit worthy of a franchise, but it probably would not have bombed as much as it did. And
Okay,
I do, and
Flake
I
Lockjaw says you can do all these old IPs and make them a success. Well, you
yeah,
can make anything a success. The trouble is, it comes down to whether people will want to watch it.
right,
And it all comes down to story. It all comes down to word of mouth. And it all comes
yeah.
down to, the people making it treating the source material with respect.
Well, you have to pick the best direction for it. If you did Flash Gordon now, well, I was so anyway. The discussion we were having was like, I'm a huge Zorro fan and I'm a huge Flash Gordon fan. Mad Cave, and I think there's another company called Heroic or something like that. Heroic has Zorro, and Mad Cave has Flash Gordon. They've also got Dick Tracy, which, and they also have the Phantom, which I kind of like. And I can't be bothered to read any of those because as much as I love the Phantom movie from back in the day, as much as I love the 1980 Flash Gordon movie, I do enjoy the serials. As much as I love the old Disney Zorro and the first Antonio Banderas movie and everything else, the comics and the books and everything, it's like how many times can you see Flash Gordon outsmarting the Merciless, and how many times can you see Zorro outsmart the alcalde or the evil governor and his, sheriff in Nottingham type character, and how many times can you see? And because I'm addressing these as an old fart, and you're talking about getting the kids interested in these old franchises. So it's like how, and even though the heroic book is written by Howard Chaykin, and the artwork looks like Alex Toth drew it. It on paper it looks great, and I read it and I was bored out of my mind. The Mad Cave, the Mad Cave book looks about as good. It's like kind of the approach you'd want to take on Flash Gordon. It's sort of retro, but it still looks cool. And I read it, and I was also kind of bored out of my mind on that one. And it wasn't because they did anything bad. Well, the Zorro one, yes, but it's nothing. Matt Cave isn't doing anything wrong or bad, but it's like I'm an old fart who's seen every take on this story, and this is a good one. But I'm just kind of like, I'll just watch Sam J. Jones again, But
Well,
so
the thing is that you know, um, with the failure of Mortal Kombat 2 and Masters of the Universe and Mandalorian Grogu and some other movie IPs that franchises that are old or seasoned, you
mm,
know, is the obsession with nostalgia coming to an end? I mean, is Hollywood going to look at it and says, "Hey, this old stuff isn't selling anymore. We need to find new things to do." And that's the question that I'm sure a lot of Hollywood executives are asking themselves right now. I know they're trying to bring back some other franchises or old IPs, and I kind of wonder, what kind of story they can create with those.
well, here's the thing. Like we have a blind eye to. I mean, we know Masters of the Universe, right? I was, but I was a teenager when that came out, and I looked at it as something that was made for children. And that guy, we were talking before went live. I was telling Ben about the guy who does Princess Jiggly Jugs is my favorite part of the John Carter movie.
Oh,
Is
wow.
that is that the Alex Braun version of it, or is that the? Flint says they didn't need to sabotage the movie; they did it itself. All you have to do is watch and see why it failed. To to
See,
an
I
ex-
agree with Flint. I actually enjoyed the movie. I thought it was actually quite good.
well,
Uh,
here's the thing. Part of the problem too is that they're spending way too much money on that. Like if they had spent half the budget, like I've got the Blu-ray for John Carter, and there's a special feature where they show the director at directing the movie. Now he came from animation, and he's literally on camera saying like, "Hey, they told me that I could have whatever I want." So, and he's like ordering like armor, and he's ordering like expensive silverware for like a dinner scene, and he's ordering like the characters have these tattoos, and then he's like, "I put all the actors through Barsoomian ship training, and they had to turn the cranks a certain way and turn the steering a certain way, and like we treated it like you really this is how you would really fly a ship like this." Nobody cared. Like you could do whatever bullshit movement you want to do and make it just so it kind of looks like you're turning the ship around and turning a crank and moving a gear or whatever. That would have been fine. You didn't have to go through training and go through the expense of all those things. what you needed to do is have a little more fencing lessons so there'd be more sword fighting in it. But and that's just the beginning. The romance needed to be developed a little more. Um, there were there was a lot of bullshit backstory that didn't matter. I mean, as much as I like the movie, because I know that how much worse the movie could have been. It Clint's right. It could have been better, and it wasn't for as huge an audience as they were. It wasn't for everybody. And if they'd spent like $150 million instead of like 300 million,
Well,
they probably would have been better.
I thought it looked fantastic, to be honest. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, I'm not arguing about the quality of the movie, but it's like that movie was not for everybody.
to me, the biggest problem I had with the movie was that I really couldn't identify with the main character. You know,
Yeah,
he seemed kind of like a whiny kind of, you know, I'm not going to say loser, but he seemed uh, kind of out of his element, which I understand. He's supposed to be an Earthman thrust on Mars,
right.
you know, but he didn't seem that much of a hero. I mean, it looked great, and I thought the actual story was not terrible, you know, and but overall, it was. I wouldn't say it's the perfect movie, but it was enjoyable. I didn't hate it, you know. So, but anyway, what about moving on? You know,
Yes,
what do you think that? What do you think of Buck Rogers?
I think it's terrible. You
You
should
don't think he would work today?
no. The it's like, okay, so which Buck Rogers do you want to do? Because Armageddon
Everyone
20,
remembers the TV version.
okay, so the Armageddon 20 whatever, um, which is the public domain book, now public domain book that all that came from. There's I don't even think he goes off into space. I think it's like a post-apocalyptic story.
Well,
The
he does
villains,
eventually go into space in season two.
no, I'm talking about the book that all the Buck
I'm talking
Rogers.
about the TV show.
Okay,
Nobody's read the book.
well, I mean, maybe
Remember?
it would behoove them to go back to the source material, but the movie, the TV series and the movie, I you could call it Buck Rogers in name only, but like by that, I
Yeah, I
think
agree with you. I think Buck Rogers would have to be the overall would have to be redone.
plus
Yeah.
it sounds old. I mean, it sounds like a cowboy.
Well, I think that's what it was supposed to be.
He was named. I think he was named after.
He
Well, he
was
was originally named
a
Anthony.
war soldier who got in suspended animation, I think.
Well, like originally he was called Anthony or Tony in the original book, and then
Mhm.
they called him Buck Rogers to kind of make it sound more like. I think there was a
To compete
cowboy.
with Flash Gordon.
Well, there was a cowboy actor named Buck something or another. I think he was based on.
Hmm.
But and cowboys were popular then. But yeah, that's way too old. The thing is, like right now, there are so many things that younger people. Let's just go over like I think the millennial. Okay, because the millennials is the largest generation, um, and because I think their stuff was the most profitable. Because what happened was for us is that there was a law in place that said you couldn't um, you couldn't do commercials for children. Like you couldn't make a TV show that was essentially a commercial for a kid.
Well,
So
let's-
all of our toys were basically just toys. Micronauts was just a toy. You can make a comic book based on it. Rom was just a toy. Shogun Warriors in Japan they had their own thing, but like the brand of Shogun Warriors in the States was it was just a toy with a Marvel comic that tied into it. And then they in the 80s Reagan changed the law, and then that allowed the whole like you couldn't even get a show on TV unless you had a toy line to back it up, like GI Joe and Thundercats and all those. And because those kind of remain, they were like evergreen, but they would go away and then come back. And like I understand, like when Dynamite brought back Thundercats, that was like one of the top 10 best-selling comics that came out for the months that they ran that. And there was like a lot, but that seems like a lot of nostalgia, but like a best-selling comic is still not really enough to carry a $200 million movie and a new
Okay.
storyline and a new everything
Well,
else.
let's break this down by generation. Baby boomers,
Right.
baby boomers, and Gen X. What IPs do you think has potential to resonate with today's audiences?
Well, before we get into that, here, so the point I'm trying to make is there is so much stuff that Gen Z is into now that Hollywood has just chosen to completely ignore. And then when it's like that Backrooms movie, when they do something that the based on an internet meme or whatever, it becomes huge, and then they act like oh my god, what is this? When they made that Minecraft movie, they thought, oh, we're just going to shit this out. It's going to be Jack Black doing Jack Black shtick, and kids like Jason Momoa, and we're going to put out this movie. And I don't know if you saw the videos from inside the theaters when they would do the chicken fight or whatever that was.
Yeah, and there's a movie just recently come out, The Digital Circus. I heard that's very much.
That was like super profitable for what it was, and it didn't cost that much. So it's
Mhm.
like Backrooms. The Minecraft movie wasn't that expensive, but it made like an insane amount of money.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't new IP being created for today's audiences. That's fine. We're not talking about new ones. We're talking about, let's say you're a studio executive and they say, "Hey, let's try to mine old IPs that we control. Okay, what can
right,
we pull out of the vault that might appeal to today's audiences?" So
right,
let's go back to the '60s. See what the 19. Let's go you're a company who owns these IPs. Let's go back to the 1960s. What 1960s IP would you think would resonate with today's audiences or would appeal to a new audience?
so okay, so you're talking about boomer stuff right now, right?
Yeah, let's pull out like three or four IPs that might resonate. Do you think things like Space Ghost would be a good movie? Do you think Johnny Quest would make a good movie? Do you think that I mean, I know they did Adam's Family in the 1990s that was hugely successful,
Hmm.
so I mean, I knew they even did a Beverly Hills Billy movie.
Well, shit, and they're doing a Wednesday series now that's popular, so that's
Yeah,
technically still the Adams Family still has.
Wednesday Adams goes into public domain, I think, in the 2030. So
Right.
there's that. No, so I know they tried the Green Hornet, that flopped. You know,
That was a terrible movie. I mean, if they'd stuck to the original plan where they got Stephen Chow as Kato and had him direct the movie, that might have worked. I mean,
Mhm.
because you have to do something a little bit daring. Like right now, a lot of these franchises are really safe. And like the problem with the Masters of the Universe movie, from what I've heard of from fans who really love it, is that they tried to put too much of the MCU humor into it, and they weren't like these guys will look at they okay, so this is my problem with Masters of the Universe, and I'm not saying it's bad. I totally understand why people love it, and I'm not shitting on your nostalgia, but like like with Star Wars, you've got like when Star Wars came out, my mom had a hard time wrapping her brain around the character names. Like what's a Chewbacca? She couldn't get C3PO's letters and numbers right. She kept calling them like CP30 and you know Darth Invader and all these other things. Like the names were really foreign and exotic. But Masters of the Universe, the names are like a child's. They're guides to children what these characters are and what they do. Like you got a guy called Stinkor and Fisto and Ram Man and He Man is the name of the main guy. Cringer is the cringy cat and Battle Cat is the Chad cat. So that's really hard to sell. I mean, that's easy to sell the 5 to 7 year old, which is who they're trying to sell the toys to, but that's really hard to sell to adults unless those adults grew up with those things.
yeah,
So,
they resonate with audiences.
right. So if you have 5 to 7 year olds now that might pick up on it, and 50-year-old dads and granddads that love that when they're kids, you're talking about like a whole generation of people in the middle who are going to think that that's silly. And then old people are going to be like me, are like, if it's a good movie, I'll see it, but I'm not going to rush out to catch it.
Hmm.
So, so and a lot of the millennial nostalgia stuff is like that. It's like that was marketed to you when you were children. You loved it then, you love it now, but there's like this gap, and maybe you could get your very young kids into it, but there's a gap in between now that just are not going to care. So you have to do something daring with it, but you have to do something daring that doesn't offend the older people the way so the because you can't go in like like the Masters of the Universe, like Orko was the comedy relief, but everything else was handled with a lot of sincerity in the old Masters of the Universe line. It was kind of Orko, and I guess Skeletor was kind of funny too, but for the most part, it was like it
Well,
was like
I think people forget that these were properties. A lot of these properties were intended for children. I mean, for kids. For young adults.
right,
And in order to appeal, you have to know who your audience is,
right,
and you have to budget and do a story according to where you think, your audience lies.
right,
I think if you try to appeal too broad a spectrum on something that obviously cannot hit all those targets, you're going to lose money. I think the reason that Star Trek, a good example, Star Trek is not doing so well is because they forgot who their main, fan base was.
well,
And
they tried to make it a young adult, like that whole Starfleet Academy. I mean, they took every playbook out of current young adult novels and tried to plug that into Star Trek, and it was a
let
disaster.
Star Trek be Star Trek.
Right.
And that's the
And
thing is that, and despite, I mean, the thing is, we as people who like Star Trek appreciate it when they appreciate us.
right,
When they try to go for an audience that, they think by doing this will attract them to Star Trek, I think they're shooting themselves in the foot, to be honest.
well, the teenagers and young adults aren't stupid, so they know what Star Trek is, and they probably already have an idea in their head that Star Trek isn't for them. And when you try to present them with a TV series that's called Star Trek and it's just full of young adult novel tropes, they I think they're smart enough to sense that this isn't coming from a place that it's coming from a cynical place. It's not coming from a place of like we want to create something new for you. Um, I'm gonna say so you have a couple of choices. You can go for your core audience, but make it really good so people will kind of wander and go like, "Oh, that's Star Trek," and I'm surprised. I kind of enjoyed it. It doesn't have this hokey special effects of the old series. It doesn't have the slow pacing of the '80s movies with the original cast. It's not, and you're gonna. And I hate to say this, but you're gonna have to dumb it down because the audience's attention span would not, unless you grew up with the next generation stuff. I don't see the current generation having a TikTok generation having the attention span to sit down and watch 60 minutes of Star Trek the way it was in the next generation era.
Hmm.
So or the spin-offs up until the spin-offs weren't that great anymore. So it's like, well, what would you do with it then? And I think I didn't like any of the new attempts. A couple of them I just didn't even bother with. I heard one of them was actually okay, but it's like either I can watch the old series or I can or the new ones have flashier special effects and all that, but they got to be a little bit dumber um, because the audience isn't going to sit through it. So again, there's like I can't there the young gen the young gen. I mean, and also these series. Keep in mind that these a lot of these franchises now are really old. Like if
Yeah,
imagine imagine
Star
imagine
Star Wars is approaching 50.
well imagine the middle imagine yourself at the midpoint. Okay, so one of my friends who's like we're both huge Indiana Jones fans. He pointed out to me that from like around World War II to the 80s, the whatever year in the 80s that Indiana Raiders of the Lost Ark came out in. That
Yes.
that many years, we are now that many years
Okay.
past Raiders of the Lost Ark.
But just because it's old doesn't mean it's not relevant.
Right.
Okay.
But again, I had friends in the 80s who liked Indiana Jones, who liked Raiders of the Lost Ark, who did not want to go back and watch Spy Smasher and all the serials and pulps that Raiders of the Lost Ark came from. I had friends who did, but most people did not. The serials were hokey, they were black and white, they were hard to get a hold of back then, da 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 da. But so Raiders of the Lost Ark seemed new and daring because we hadn't seen anything like that for 40 years, but also it was like extremely well done for that time period. And even though it had humor in it, it didn't wink at you and say like, "Boy, this Fisto name sure is stupid," kind of stuff. And that's probably, from what I've heard, that's part of the problem with the He-Man movie, is that they weren't courageous enough to just go like, this is Eternia, it's a real place, the threats are real, Skeletor's evil, and this good guy's going to try to fight him and save everything. It's kind of like, hey, how about that Stinkor? And
Well,
so
I agree with you somewhat. Well, before we go on, Amendment K 175 asks, I don't want to get off track, so I want to make this really quick question. When the submissions are scripts only, no art, does the script alone? Well, sorry, May we only accept completed submissions. Now, I'd be happy to read it, but usually we don't take, unsolicited submissions, in, raw form, only because, we don't want to be accused of taking your idea or whatever. So the best thing to do is just to go ahead and get it completed, get it print ready, and then we'll decide. Then you can submit it. So getting back on track. All right. Well, the thing about it is that there's any IP has got potential. It's all about the story. Okay. Now, um, my thing is that you know can you do old IPs to be relevant? Now, see, that's where it comes down to, is that yes, I think you can, if you can come up with the right story, and I think the reason why, say, for instance, Masters Universe, I think they try too hard to appeal to an audience that really aren't going to go see it.
oh
If they
no, the audience that loved it.
stuck to the formula, okay, and also the Netflix series didn't do it any favors. Okay.
No.
My understanding is that it totally really destroyed the He-Man brand. Okay.
Well, also spending $200 million on it didn't help either. I mean, it made like for any other movie that would have cost less than $100 million, it made money. It was profitable, but because it cost $200 million and has to, I forgot how much they said that it had to make now to be, and plus we're talking about old numbers because apparently Amazon's happy with it, and they have some kind of,
sure, they're going to say they're happy with it.
well,
But
they have some
behind
kind
the scenes, they're saying, "Holy crap, we lost a ton of money."
well, I mean,
Let's face Well, I mean, let's face it. No corporation wants to lose money, no matter what.
right. But
And
they
then,
have the streaming accounting is totally different nowadays. Like, but that whole business of like, oh, it's got to make 3 times its budget. It's different now because it goes to streaming, and I don't understand it because like I liked the old system of, it runs in the theater and then it makes money on DVD and VHS and Blu-ray, and then it goes to TV and then it goes to streaming, and it's like 4 places of revenue where you could make money off of it, the thing, and now it's just like it's playing in the theaters, boom, direct to streaming after 2 weeks sometimes.
well, it also could be that Master of the Universe itself doesn't resonate.
No.
I mean, it's an old property. When's the last time? I mean, I know they tried to do those retro toys. I don't know if it did well or not. But maybe people just don't care about it. It's
Well,
just those things where it's like, oh, it's an old cartoon property. The story doesn't resonate with people. It's just a silly, silly cartoon. And it doesn't say anything. You
well,
know,
here's the thing though too. I mean, Masters of the Universe is doing what it's doing. Net Blade Man says there were 2 Netflix. The CGI was pretty good. The one continuing the old show was iffy. So again with Masters, um, I I think the approach for the current movie is wrong. For Mandalorian and Grogu um, comes at the end of a long line of 3 horrific movies, 2 movies that were somewhere between okay and pretty good, like aggressively bad TV streaming shows. Andor was all right. The whatchamacallit, the 2 Andor series was all right. The animated stuff was pretty good. But we're getting to the point now where there's like a lot more bad Star Wars than there is good. And then they put this movie out in the theater, and even though Becky liked it, Becky doesn't dwell on this kind of shit the way we do. So I mean, she'll go in. She had a good time for 2 hours.
uh, what I
We're
could,
like, oh, we know that we're gonna talk about this shit for 2 weeks.
she's what is considered a normie. Okay,
Right,
she does not obsess over
right,
things that are the minutia of all these
right,
IPs like you and I do. Okay,
right.
we dig deep dives, into the minutia of these of IPs that we care about. She just watches to enjoy, watching a movie, and
So
she liked it, she walks away with it and say, "Oh, that was good," and then that's the end of it. She doesn't go out and buy the merchandise. She doesn't ask questions as why
right.
did they do this? Why do they do that? What does this mean? What does that mean? And so she just goes in, watches the movie, and she likes it. She's done with it.
Right.
Well, you and I are different.
So
Okay.
in the case of like Disney, anything owned by Disney right now, the things that people who work for Disney, the cast, Kathleen Kennedy, um, the filmmakers, the writers, the things that they've said for like MCU stuff and Star Wars stuff and Indiana Jones stuff, the things that they've said about and to the fans over the last few years have really soured hardcore fans on the properties. And if the movies and TV shows and streaming programs had been good, they might have even forgiven them. But it's like,
Well, then let me
yeah,
ask you a question.
yeah.
What IP? Okay, the reason I think
Okay, we're going back. Okay, go ahead.
like things like Laura Croft, was
Yeah,
Transformers, things like that. I think the reason that those franchises are failing is because of apathy. People just don't
right.
care.
I
Okay,
think
so
Transformers still.
what IPs out there that are old or seasoned, would people care about?
Well, I
Okay,
think Transformers,
you
even though they've cut the budgets on the movies, they've still been doing pretty good, right? The last, I think.
Well, the last movie I understand failed, though, the Transformers origin movie, you know,
Hmm.
the animated one that just came out.
Oh yeah, I've heard people say that's the best Transformers.
It is actually
But
really good, but it didn't. Nobody went to go see it.
but maybe that was like too old school at that point. Again, like all these '80s ones now, we're we're talking. They are from the '80s till now. You're looking at like, would you go would you have gone to see a Hopalong Cassidy movie? Because
Well, I'm just saying, what IPs do you know?
okay,
Okay,
that's
would
a direct
be
question.
exciting to a modern audience.
Yeah. See, and the chat can join in on this one too while I'm having it on.
Okay, so
'Cause
somebody mentioned Johnny Quest. I mean, would that get people excited to go see it?
I don't
You
think
know,
so.
um, would
The
something
thing
like a
is,
recent one, like Adventure Time, if you did a live action version of Adventure Time, would that get people into theater?
I know people would be excited by it, but again, how would you handle it?
It doesn't matter.
Well,
Okay,
no, I mean, would you make it look exactly like the TV show and
See,
charge people
I
$20
don't know.
to see it?
The thing is with the announcement of it. With that, I mean, I know they're doing a Zelda movie. That's an old property. I'm no.
That's never been done as a movie, as far as I think. There's been animated stuff, but it's not.
Well, if you're talking about technically, it's been done like a dozen video games, so people are aware of it. It's not like a IP from scratch.
Right.
So people are
So,
aware of it. And it is a
so-
franchise, a video game franchise.
okay. Well, okay, so if you're talking about video game franchises, I saw the second Mortal Kombat movie and I didn't like it.
Mhm.
I saw and there was a lot of things. I mean, for a movie that's based on fighting, the fighting wasn't all that great, in my opinion, and neither were the characters. And I didn't see the first movie of the reboot, and people were saying like, "Well, the second one is way better than the first movie of the reboot," and I have no desire to go back. And I just said that first Mortal Kombat movie that was made with Christopher Lambert and the I forgot who Talia Soto and everybody else. I loved that movie. I love it for all of its many faults. The first time I saw it was in the theater. It was a afternoon matinee, and the kids were running all around the theater. And when that chrome dragon came across the screen, and that voice said "Mortal Kombat," and they played the actual freaking music from the video game, and fire came out of it and everything. Those kids were in their seats, eyes on the screen, and loving every minute of it since. And I thought, this is how it's done. And I think that's the approach they're going to have to take, because they took it dead seriously with some on purpose laughs. And I felt, and I mean, I played the game like everybody else. It was fun, but it was not like something I know nothing of the Mortal Kombat lore. I just know like, oh, that's that Scorpion guy. Sub-Zero, he shoots snow because his name is Sub-Zero. And then when they had that fight in the other dimension with Johnny Cage, I think Kung Fu magazine called that one of the best movie fights of that year. And so the fighting was good. Fighting was mostly good. I got to see Goro. It wasn't perfect, but it was for the 90s. It was a great attempt for a low budget movie or a moderately budgeted movie. Everybody tried their best on that movie, and I thought that's what I liked.
Well, then, let's talk about, IPs that have never had a movie
Right.
would make a good movie and that would resonate with naughty audiences. I think we brought up Micronauts. I think Micronauts would actually do very well if it was done right.
Wow.
Rom the Space might probably do pretty good if
Not really
handled correctly.
Mhm.
Those are two. I think they're owned by Mattel. I think one Parker Brothers. I think they did Rom the Space Knight.
Rom's part of Hasbro now.
Yeah. Okay. So those would be two IPs I think would do very well. I know that back in the 80s there were several IPs I would have loved as a kid to see as a movie, like Sectars would be interesting. Laugh at that.
No, I laugh at it because okay.
The Visionaries.
Vision.
Would have
I
been
don't think Visionaries.
fantasy Game of Thrones. Visionaries would be good.
I don't think
Believe it or not,
I'm with you on Sectars, not so much Visionaries. Blade Man just said Exo Squad.
Exo Squad would be excellent if handled correctly.
Hey, Blade Man, what do you think of Bikini Sentai G Rangers?
Well, I'm very biased on that. I definitely would like to see a movie.
I think Blade. I don't know if you recognize him, but I think Blade Man worked on it with us.
Really?
Yeah. So, but I mean, so well, and where would you say these franchises need to come from? Should they come from toy companies? Should they come from studios?
See, mean, I'm not familiar with. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I read more comics than I do books. But there's a ton of stuff I think would make great, franchises that are coming from the comics, and the anime field. See, that's another thing. People are starting to start strip mining anime. for
Yeah,
ideas. One Piece was a huge success on Netflix.
yeah.
And we're seeing other anime adaptations as well. So do you think there's the thing about anime though is there's not a large population familiar with it. Dragon Ball. There have been several attempts at a Dragon Ball movie
Are you
and
talking about old anime or are you talking about current
any
anime?
anime.
Because One Piece was a no-brainer. If you walk around the mall near my house here, there's One Piece shit all over that place, and the kids are totally into it. And
Mhm.
they were reading the manga, they were
Well,
watching
why
the
do you think
anime.
that is? What is it about an IP? Okay, any IP that
Mhm.
resonates with people. Okay, that resonates with its audience. Okay, why did not Masters of the Universe, Mortal Kombat 2, Mandalorian Grogu, Lara Croft, Transformers, why did those not resonate with people? Those are all famous IPs. People are familiar with it. Okay,
Yeah.
why did those fail? Or at least not get the box office success that they were looking for.
Okay, so on the surface level, I think we're at the point where all these, like, older franchises, young people know that these are old. They've heard their dads talk about it, they've heard their grandfathers talk about it, and it's like, you know, I knew what Flash Gordon was, um, and I knew Flash Gordon was old when the 1980 well, actually, I knew Flash Gordon was old when the, Filmation series came out. Um, and I liked that. I liked that despite the fact that it was old. Most most of these kids, they don't want their dads and grandpas, whatchamacallit. And even back in the day, Flash Gordon wasn't successful, The Shadow wasn't successful, The
The fan,
Phantom wasn't successful. Most of the even history is repeating itself all over again. The stuff that was made for the dads was not successful when they tried to bring it back when the dads were on the cusp of being grandparents and all that kind of thing, and the kids weren't running out to see it. Raiders of the Lost Ark was a totally new property, which even though set in an older time, was completely new, and also the way that story was told was completely new for that time period. Because
what about things like James Bond?
I
Okay,
don't,
that's been around since the 60s.
they should like. There's been talk that they're going to do a 1960s James Bond, and that's totally what they should do. They
Yeah,
should
but
not try to.
do you think that's going to appeal to modern audiences?
They should not spend they shouldn't spend 300 million just because James Bond movies have made $1 billion in the past. They should not spend $300 million and hope for $1 billion for a James Bond movie now.
I agree.
They sh-
James Bond has always been, even from his very beginning, has always been sort of a low budget affair, to be honest.
well, I mean, they got kind of crazy towards the end of the Daniel Craig run.
Yeah,
They
because
spent
because
way
because the Daniel Craig movies were making $1 billion.
right, but even that last one, I don't know how much it ultimately made. And part of the problem was they had to sit on it for most of COVID because they couldn't get in the theaters and they were afraid that without a theatrical run, it wouldn't make its money back. And it was collecting interest because they were holding it. There was a lot going into that last one. But at this point, um,
But do you think James Bond will resonate with modern
no,
audience?
absolutely not.
Mhm.
If they make it, but if you're talking about a modern Zoomer Gen Alpha audience, no. But you could make a movie that appeals to Gen Xers and maybe even millennials, older millennials, if you keep it in a pretty tight basket and set it in the 60s. The books are actually really low key. Like you could do a direct adaptation of the books as a streaming show on a streaming budget and probably make it popular and just do not wink at the camera. Do not be like, "Hey, remember how politically incorrect this shit is?" Just keep it straightforward and let people talk about it. Let the people who are going to bitch about it being politically incorrect let them complain about it. That's good publicity.
Mhm.
So Yeah, but I do not think James Bond should be. It needs to stew a little bit longer and see how things go. What for James Bond? I don't want to. This is the first and last time I want to bring this up. Trump has to be out of office before they can talk about doing the political sphere has to change before they can think about doing a James Bond thing.
Well, not to show my age,
Yeah,
I remember when bad guys used to be Islamic terrorists. You know,
right, right.
see that anymore. Okay, even
No,
though they're still out there, by for all intentional purposes.
well, I mean, the bad guys in the Bond movies were mostly either,
Cold
uh,
War adversaries,
yeah,
or
well, it was like bullshit, uh,
rogue
co
agents,
bullshit comic book villains like Blofeld, and
Spectre,
then
and
Spectre, and then up
Thrush.
again, and then the Russians were kinda like the barrier. You know,
Mhm.
it was like the main problem was here, and then the Russians caused problems here and would get in the way, and so, I mean, that is certainly an approach, but, like, that sort of patriotism, queen and country, that's not gonna fly. So, no.
Well, I mean, it's a totally different world now. Okay,
Right, right.
you
And
know.
I don't think he was I mean, I've only read few of the books, and he wasn't that much of a Lothario. I mean, he wasn't like the formula of seducing women and that was in the books, but it wasn't as it,
Well, I mean, the thing about it is that current audiences have different expectations,
right,
from what they want from their entertainment.
right.
But in the end, we're all human. We all have the same emotions. We all have the same, you know, the problem. And the thing I see is that there are very few movies that speak to them and addresses their concerns, addresses their thoughts, addresses their future. Okay,
Mhm,
when you have during the 70s, I remember before Star Wars came out, I remember all these dystopian science fiction movies,
mhm.
where the Earth was doomed, people were terrible, the future was not looking good, but then all it took was Star Wars to say, oh, things are better. We're
Yeah,
optimistic,
and
you
then
know?
the pendulum went the other direction because the Hunger Games is arguably more popular than Star if they there's 2 more Hunger Games books that they haven't adapted yet, I think. So and the last one, like, the first one was a prequel, and I don't remember if they actually made a movie based on the second book, but there's at least 1 more Hunger Games book that has not been adapted, and from what I understand, the first couple were popular movies, so but that's a dystopian story that really caught on, and that is a touch point of that generation. Same thing with Twilight. They could remake the Twilight movies, and but that again, I think that would work better as a streaming series than and they're going to remake Harry Potter. They're working on Harry Potter.
Yes,
Done,
they are
done
remaking.
right, that can be huge. But again, they're already like
They're already
telling
screwing it up. They're already
yeah,
fucking.
they're already telling fans, "Oh, we're going to do this," and it's like, well,
No, they're saying one thing and doing another. So,
right,
I don't have a lot of high hopes for this Harry Potter series. I'm going to watch it, when it comes
right,
out,
yeah.
but to be honest, I will be surprised and shocked if they actually adapt every single book. I
Every single part of every single book. Well,
hmm?
the thing is, like with the movies, so there's a lot of stuff that they left out of the movies, but the core of the story is still there enough, and they kept the cast, except for the one Dumbledore that died. The cast is exactly the same. Like you can see these kids grow up from like 7 and 8 years old into big gawky teenagers.
Are you talking about the movie?
The Harry Potter movies, yeah. And I talked to a friend who was like the perfect age. Like she read the books at the perfect age. Every year that the books came out, she was the perfect age to read that. And she's an adult now. And she's like, I'd love to. She before they announced the series, she was saying like, I'd love to see a series where they adapt everything and just keep it like word perfect from beginning to end. And I said, well, you kind of already have that with the movies, like the stuff I love, like Star Wars. I mean, they were just they were making crap up as they went along, and then they were doing a patch job as they were going along, saying like, "Oh yeah, Luke is Darth Vader's his father, and then Princess Leia and Luke, they're brothers and sister, and all this other stuff." And it's like that wasn't in any. They didn't have like a book or a treatment or a Bible or anything they were going by. They're just making crap up, and then like three different actors are playing Darth Vader, and uh, that it's just a they're just like putting stuff to it's being assembled in real time. But like
Well,
the Lord of the Rings movies, they had the books as a roadmap, and they respected the movies, respected the books, and they talked to the fans like, "What do you want to see in the movies? Can we do this? Does this affect something like in the Silmarillion?" Blah 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 blah. Same thing with Dune. I mean, I'm not a huge Dune fan, but from what I understand of the two movies that we just got, Dune fans are pretty happy with it because it was like, here's the books are the roadmap. Respect the map. Don't go too far off course. The question is, what can we get away with cutting for time, and then everything else goes in the way it's written, and it's good.
mm,
So that's whatever franchise from whatever decade you choose. That almost has to be the approach if the source material it has some kind of relevance somewhere now. Like the books were still relevant and still had fans of Lord of the Rings and Dune and a lot of the Harry Potter. So you have to stick. You have to be very faithful to those books as much as you can. If you were to do something goofy and silly, like when the Brady Bunch movie came out, you remember? Did you see the first Brady Bunch movie from like way back in the day?
I did watch it.
Yeah, I mean that was a kind of meta approach to the Brady Bunch. The second one wasn't as good, and the joke ramped in, but that was like pretty much the only way you could have handled a Brady Bunch. Like it was 20 years from like the end of the Brady Bunch TV show to when the movie came out ish, and that's how you do a 20-year-old sitcom that's been playing in reruns for that long.
Yeah, but nobody remembers the Brady Bunch.
Well, back then they did. Back then it was like you and I were brought up on the
See,
Brady
well,
Bunch.
that's the thing.
So
Okay, so are we entering into an era
yes,
where, you know, where is the new IPs? Okay, I mean, name, I can't, I'm very hesitant to name any IP in the last 5 or 10 years that are new franchises. Okay, I mean, that are not based on old franchises.
so here's the thing. Okay, so to answer your question, I tend to go on these tangents. I'm sorry, but I try to make a big point out of a simple question. So I think what we need to do is move the timeline forward a little bit. So instead of dwelling on 40-year-old franchises that you and I remember from when we were teenagers or kids, or even 50-year-old franchises, move the timeline forward and try to only look at some stuff from like the last 20 to 25 years. And that gets challenging because like the old franchisers were kind of like already competing with the newer ones. But like stuff that
What
you and
new ones
I,
are there? That's what I'm asking.
well,
What new ones have taken the place of the old ones? What new ones have are resonating now? I can name a couple of movies that have had sequels. Okay, that's the start of a franchise. Okay,
right,
so like
right.
Megan was, when I understand, was very popular. Got a sequel,
Which
wasn't as
one?
well received for
You dropped out. What was it?
Megan.
Oh, Megan. Okay. All
Right.
right.
That was one that had a sequel. Black Phone, had a sequel. I'm trying to think what other movies that have come out in the last 5 or 10 years that have had sequels, which means that's the start of a franchise. Yeah.
Well, this is close to your heart. I think they've done at least two of those Winnie the Pooh public domain movies.
Yeah, that could be start of a franchise.
Yeah.
The problem, well, not the problem. The thing about those movies is that they are made on such low budgets that you can make sequels constantly, and make enough money to justify a new sequel.
Well, we're also talking about the budgets here because like those Terrifier movies are made
Terrifying
relatively cheap.
movie, another example. You know, he's the new Jason. He's the new, Michael Myers.
Gotta respect Art the Clown. But so the thing is, like, I've not seen those movies, and I understand why they're popular, but they're just not for me. But that doesn't stop like millions of other people from going
Sure.
to see them and loving them.
Well, that's the point. Is that you know what what new IPs are resonating with new audiences.
Okay, well, but
And I haven't seen a new Star Wars. I haven't seen a new, Marvel MCU franchise. I haven't seen any new uh, characters come up to take the place of the old IPs.
so they've made two of the Super Mario movies, and those were popular.
Yes, but Mario's from the '80s. I mean, that's not you can't
Right.
count.
But they didn't get around to making like a real Mario movie until like the last few years.
Super Mario Bros. Was out in the '89 or so.
No, that was a piece of crap, and you just discounted.
Hey, you cannot discount it. It was made and it exists.
If it was an abortion when it came out, we can ignore it from the 80s,
And
and
you can't ignore it because it exists.
it exists, but it's like the
It
successful.
lives and it breathes.
We'll start from the most successful version and move forward. Okay, so to answer your question from before,
New IPs from the last 5 or 10 years to appeal to generation, whatever this new alpha it is.
see, I don't. A lot of the stuff that they're into, I don't think they need or want or care.
Well, what are they into?
Well, I don't think they need or want or care for there to be a 2-hour movie telling the story of this thing. Like Minecraft didn't need a two. I mean, they play Minecraft for like
Yes, but
25 hours a
I
day.
disagree with you on this on a little bit. Okay, Minecraft was aimed at the people who play Minecraft, which are
Right,
the kids. Okay, the kids are the future of Minecraft. Okay,
right.
if they do another Minecraft movie, okay, and it's just as successful, okay, those kids who watched the first one will remember, remember it, and they'll grow up with fond memories of Minecraft. So maybe 10 years from now, 15 years from now, maybe they might do another Minecraft movie to appeal to that generation.
Okay. Well, so just for clarity though, what happened with that Minecraft movie was very much an anomaly because they shat out. I mean, like I said, I don't think that generation. A lot of the things they like Minecraft, Roblox, um, they don't need a. They don't. If it doesn't already have a pre-existing story with pre-existing character, well, there's a character, but if there's like a single unified story, like you know, Treasure Island's a story about the beginning, middle, and end of the pirates and all that, or just pick your classic Frankenstein, all those things. If there isn't already a story about it, but it's a thing, it's a brand name that people recognize. I don't think the younger generation cares if there's a 2-hour made up Hollywood bullshit screenplay story for their favorite brand. And Hollywood did exactly that for the Minecraft movie, and they just put all the memes and things that are in the game in this bullshit story. And the Gen Z is very media savvy. They knew they were being almost like talked down to by Hollywood, and they in the most fuck you way possible, and they said fuck you right back by going to see the movie and bringing chickens into the movie theaters and going berserk when the chicken fight showed up and and
But
and
see,
filming themselves doing it.
that behavior is no different than when Rocky Horror Picture Show came out.
It's a lot. No, it's a lot more
Uh,
destructive.
it's
Nobody brought a live chicken into the theater for the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, we don't know that. Okay, yeah,
Well, I mean, it
it's
was a
very
pretty kinky
possible that
movie.
could happen. The thing about it is that's what you want. You want people to be fans of whatever then
Right.
IP.
They basically saw the movie as a fuck you to them, and they said fuck you right back. And in the process, the studio made $200 million, or made $1 billion. Flint, no, I haven't seen Minecraft. I'm just saying that the reason it was successful was because of the meta it was. I mean, nobody cared about Jack Black or Jason Momoa's bullshit story in that movie. It was the meta things around it and the brand name and the audience. So we have to. Minecraft is very different, even though you could say like it's a video game movie like the
Well, then the
Mario
question
movie.
should be, what new IPs are out there? Okay.
Okay.
I mean, when George Lucas did Star Wars, he didn't know that was going to be a success. Okay.
No.
And that was a brand new idea. He wanted to do Flash Gordon, couldn't do Flash Gordon, so he did Star Wars. I mean, look at other things like Back to the Future. Okay. Look at other things like Darkman. Look at other things like, you know, other movies that came out of there that weren't based on any IPs, okay,
Okay.
or any previous IPs,
So
all
here.
original stories. Okay, so
Okay.
what new IPs do we have now that are from original ideas, original stories, not based on any previous IP? I can't think of anything except maybe, the Minions. Okay, you know,
Even those movies. I think the first one came out how long ago?
yeah,
The
Gru,
the
Despicable Me, that came out right in the 2010s or something like that.
Yeah. So that's pushing 20 years old now.
Mm-hmm. It's
15, 20.
pushing quite a
Okay,
bit.
so let's tier this. Okay, so like here are the ones that are
Like,
here are the ones that the kids like. That there's sequels and multiple versions of it out there, based on some pre-existing property, be it a book, video game, so Lego. But the Lego movie. First of all, Lego's a super old IP, but it took them like I don't know how long. Whenever that first Lego movie came out, with everything is awesome and all that, but that was like a super meta approach to the whole Lego thing.
and they ruined it by doing a sequel.
Well, Batman Lego wasn't terrible. I mean, it was
It
okay, I
was
guess.
Batman Lego was silly. Okay,
Right.
it was in fact, it
Miles
was
Morales is the whole like Miles Morales is technically MCU, but it's like separate enough that like no matter what kind of crap they pull on the old MCU stuff, kids will still go see the third Miles Morales
what,
movie.
what do you consider too long a period of time to pass before you do another sequel? I mean, a good example is like Space Jam. Okay, I mean,
Mm.
what was the point of the second movie? Okay, other than just nostalgia bait. Well,
I can't,
what's the
I
point of
don't I don't think it's a good idea, especially if this cast has
it was like
visual.
25, wasn't it like 25 years had passed before they did a second Space Jam?
If the cast is visual, okay, so most of the cast of Space Jam are cartoon characters, so they don't get older. Um,
Yeah, but if they the first Space Jam was good because it focused on the core group of characters. The second one was just nothing but cameos.
yeah,
Okay.
well, okay, so looking at, I'm not going to read them because I don't want to get sidetracked. Everything Flint Lockjaw is saying in the chat, I agree with him, and he's right about that, and he'll tell you why for free. But okay, so there is stuff now that I think they're working on a new Dogman movie, and Captain Underpants was successful, and Captain Underpants was successful enough to make a TV series, or I think there was a streaming series based on it. I keep using TV and streaming interchangeably because I'm old, but you know what I mean. So all the Dave Pilkey stuff. There are a bunch of kids' books and graphic novels that are waiting to be done. There was Wings of Fire, um, Catstronauts, Investigators. Those are Investigators and Catstronauts are two big graphic novel franchises. Wings of Fire is a series of books about all the characters are dragons in the Wings of Fire series. And for whatever reason, Netflix was on the cusp of making a series based on it, and then they decided to pull the plug. And I'm like, what stopped you from doing that? Because the books are proven over and over and over again how successful they are. Um, and then they did a graphic novel series that are straight up adaptations of the books, and that's on the bestseller charts all the times for Wings of Fire. Um, there's a series called Keeper of Lost Cities that could be made into a movie. Um,
Okay.
uh,
I'm going to
the Warrior Cat series. Not okay. So the Warrior Cat series. Get this. Warrior Cats, all the cast members of the story are cats, and it's basically Game of Thrones
with cats.
with cats in a field. Okay, it's all these cats political maneuvering and killing each other, and
Okay, well then I would ask, what audience are you aiming that at?
anybody who likes cats. So that's you,
Having
that's your
cats killing
kids.
each other and doing Game of. Have you seen Game of Thrones?
They handle it in a way that it's not that it's like if you're. I wouldn't say it's for anybody under 8 years old, but it can be done. I mean, it's not done for obvious. It's a kids series, so like the deaths are handled off camera, and there's no bloody gashing of teeth. But animal characters get hurt and characters die, and the kids are old. The kids it's like if you the writers respect the kids enough to know like how much they can handle of that kind of thing. So it's not Watership Down where it's graphic and horrible and all that, but it's like the suspense and the characters and all that, and they're all cats. And there's a series of graphic novels based on those. They're all bestsellers, Warrior Cats. And a fans have even taken upon themselves to do this was before AI, to do flash animated adaptations of the books. There's like a whole 22 episode thing made by fans out of the fan zone pockets that you can watch on YouTube to get an idea of what Warrior Cats is like. So if they're that devoted that they're going to go, fuck it, I'm not waiting around for you any longer, Hollywood, to make this. I'm going to make it and put it up on YouTube. Those are fans who are willing to talk with their wallet.
See, if I was a Hollywood executive, this is what I would say. Okay, what about that movie Cats?
It has nothing to do with that.
Yes, but it's got a damaged reputation. Another cat movie wouldn't sell.
Okay, so first of all, Cats was a terrible movie. Most people who liked the play thought it was a terrible idea to do it as a movie.
Well, the thing is,
the trailer were like, "Good God, are they really going to release this movie?" And then this Warrior Cats, all you have to do is call it Warriors, and show a picture of the cats. That's the cover of the books. It says Warriors. It's not actually called Warrior Cats. Everyone says it to.
Yeah, the problem is the movie already called The Warriors.
But again, it's 50 freaking years old. Who
doesn't matter? Already have the movie called Warriors. So you do trademark, you do copyrights, that pops up.
If you made a movie called Warriors and it was all about cats, and you had a cat with bottles on its claws
I'm
going,
playing the devil's advocate.
Warriors, come out.
I'm playing the devil's advocate. I'm going to be the asshole Hollywood executive. Okay, you're doing a pitch to me, and I'm replying back to you. Okay, so
you're replying back to me based on a title and from a cult movie.
Yeah, but I'm the one that has the power. Okay, so you have to understand that if you're pitching something to a Hollywood executive who has the power, okay, you have to convince him this is a good idea. Okay,
well, this is why Hollywood is failing, and people with AI are probably going to end up succeeding.
Oh, you better not say that to them.
well, listen, I'm pitching. I'm saying like this series, and actually, Warriors is a pretty old series. I have adult coworkers who read these books when they were like 8, 9, 10 years old. They're like 20 something now. So it's been around at least 20 years. And there are like dozens and dozens of these books. And no, Hollywood has not done anything with it. And again, they're so frustrated. They're spending their own money to produce a animated thing that they just throw up on YouTube. I don't know how. When we have a little pause, I'll see if I can see how many views that thing's gotten. So
they released a Warriors video game in 2005. Is that based on the movie or based on the cats?
It's based on the old movie that boomers remember. So, but again, so I'm telling you, there's this thing. It's huge. We've got now, and my coworker is now old enough that she could have kids of her own that she would make fans of. So we got two potential generations for Warrior Cat fans. We're working on a third because those books have not slowed down at all. And then you go to Hollywood and you're saying like, look, there's this thing. It's got a proven audience. Everybody loves cats. And then you cock block it with like, well, there's a terrible Cats movie. And then there's this movie from 50 years ago that like boomers still merchandise collector's editions of the DVDs and do steel boxes. So it's still available. It's a valid franchise because we sold 5,000 steel books of that. So,
You know,
so
I
and you're saying no. And then, so what do? Well, I'm going to take my $200 million and do Masters of the Universe, and I'm going to take my $200 million and do Mortal Kombat. It's like we've got two Masters of the Universe movies.
well, the logic, I'm sure the Hollywood logic thinking of that is that Master Universe is established property. There's got to be millions of people who are
Okay, so
familiar with it.
Masters of the Universe, aside from that first couple of seasons of the cartoon, it was a failed movie. I don't know exactly how well the other series did, like okay, but then that Netflix one was not successful and not well regarded at all. Oh, so Flint says they released a Warriors video game in 2005. So
Well,
20 years ago they
now it is
released.
possible, and I don't know this for a fact, that Mattel may have, financed the Masters of the Universe movie.
Right, but for
So
all these,
if
so
that was
all
the case, okay, Amazon said, well, shit, if you're giving me the money, I'll do it, you
but
know?
see again, like all there's all these okay, so I suddenly clicked into like, oh yeah, I'm a bookseller and I know all these book franchises because we were kind of picking at movie franchises and all that. But there's a ton of stuff that, for reasons unexplained, like for them to pull out of doing a Wings of Fire pilot is beyond my comprehension because it's so popular, and kids are spending. Here's the other thing: if a kid gets a gift certificate or $20 for Christmas, they will spend their own money on these franchises I'm talking about. So it's not just the parents saying like, "Oh well," and the parents are just happy the kids are reading, so they'll buy the books for them. But it isn't just like, "Here, I'm buying this for you. You have to read it because it's good." This is what kids spend their own money on. So you tell the studio executives, "Here you go. These are these amazing things," and then they go like, "Nope, I'm only going to go with a video game like Mortal Kombat." And the Mortal Kombat stuff's kind of up and down because I don't know if the first reboot movie was that successful. I remember there was a Mortal Kombat web series. There was a Mortal Kombat uh, syndicated series. I don't know how successful they were, but all these things I mentioned, like you and I might remember them, but we kind of barely remember them, right?
Yes, of course. Okay,
So,
so we've pretty much covered, what we think the reasoning is behind, why Hollywood continues to do old IPs that, quite frankly, no one cares about. I
well,
mean,
you want to. So there's a lot of. So I think your point. I think going back to your original question, there are some franchises that have never really been done
I'm going
right.
to name off some. Yes.
Huh?
Sir. Okay, so you're the Hollywood executive now. Okay,
Okay.
and I'm bringing you a list of IPs that you own, your company owns, and you can say yes or no whether they should be a movie based on it.
Great.
Okay,
You want me to say why, or just going to do lightning round?
huh? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just going to name off a few that I
Right.
personally like, that I would love to see as movies, but I'm biased. So you
Okay.
tell me whether you think it has potential, or it's a total loser.
Right.
Okay. Uh, um, Space Ghost.
Okay. So it's going to be yes, no, or it depends on how it was handled.
Yes, no, and if it's no, why?
I think potentially yes.
Okay. What about
So again, so Flintlock Judge has said you can take any old property and make it successful. Space Ghost, yes. So I agree with him. You can take any old property and make it successful. It depends entirely on how your modern approach is going to be. Like to take the Brady Bunch and make it meta and make it funny, that's a good approach.
okay?
Space Ghost, to take the Adams Family and make it a YA comedy drama that would appeal to the hot topic generation, goth chick generation, that's a good approach. To go back to try to make the Adams Family a sitcom, would have been like a stage-bound sitcom would have been disastrous. So go ahead with your question.
Okay, Johnny Quest.
No,
Okay, why?
because there's too many current year things about it. Do you know? Do you know who?
There's a gay couple in there.
I have some. I have some. So here.
First
Okay,
gay couple in cartoons.
so I've got a friend who I call him Big Gay Ron because he kind of at the time we were hanging out together, he kind of looked like Big Gay Al, and we would watch South Park together. And when that Big Gay Al character debuted, we were like, "Oh, look, it's the real life Big Gay Al is here with us," and he kind of acted like him a little bit. So Big Gay Ron and his partner Carl would watch Johnny Quest and just howl because they were like, "Oh, I can see two queens sitting together in the writing room, putting all this stuff in, and going like, they're never going to guess what we're really saying here."
But would that be the reason why you wouldn't do it?
No, that wouldn't be at all. It would be because that's exactly how you would get it on TV. And
Okay.
also, um, it you would have to change so much of it that you wouldn't need to call it Johnny Quest, and you would piss off the people who liked old Johnny Quest, and they wouldn't watch it. The young people wouldn't care enough about Johnny Quest that like the name would mean anything to them. And then there's this big chunk of people in the middle. It's like kid having adventures. It might as well be anything, Richie Rich or whatever. Now, I have a question for you before you go on. Do you remember a character called Tom Swift?
I do indeed.
Are you aware that there was a live action Tom Swift series that was made for streaming in the last 5 or 10
I
years?
am not aware of it.
Yeah, he was black, bisexual, and I forgot what else they did to him. And the reason you haven't heard of it is because it was that popular. So
Well, my understanding is that he was the base character for Johnny Quest.
I wouldn't doubt it. So I'll be honest with you. I would actually consider doing Tom Swift again more than I would consider doing Johnny Quest because nobody that name means nothing to anybody, and I would just make it a better series. And because I mean I barely remember Tom Swift. I remember there was like a 1970s Tom Swift version of Tom Swift that I barely remember.
People would seem to disagree with you on your Johnny Quest decision.
Well, there was a Johnny Quest cartoon in 1997, but now we're talking about another franchise that's 30
Yes,
years
never been a live action movie.
from the time of no, the revamp is the gay version of the series that I'm talking about that
Hmm.
Big Gay Ron used to watch.
So,
I'll go one step even further. I went to a friend's wedding and he put us at a table with one of the guys who was writing that version of Johnny Quest. And I told him what Big Gay Ron said. I was like, "Do you have a bunch of queens on the crew?"
I have to disagree with you. I think Johnny Quest would make an awesome movie. Especially they set in the '60s, just like the original TV show. This way Race Bandit can do all his racist shit. And
Okay.
super weird gadgets that Dr. Quest, and he can fight Dr. Zin, that evil Asian serial type villain.
Okay. You know what we need to bring into the to this. We'll bring into since we're winding down anyway, and people will just start leaving when we talk about it.
All right, so let's go to the next one.
Okay, let's do the lightning round, and then I'm gonna tell you a possible solution. Go ahead.
Okay. Herculoids.
Ooh,
Yes or no?
yes.
Okay. Why? Oh, yes. Okay, fine. Greenlit.
I think it's got I think it's got a mysterious enough title, and I think those character designs were strong enough that you could do a lot with them,
Okay.
depending on how you adapt it.
Frankenstein Jr.
You would be shocked by how many kids don't know who Frankenstein is. Frankenstein, by Frankenstein's
Really?
by Frankenstein, I mean Frankenstein's monster, of course.
Yes or no?
It would have to be handled a very specific way. But I'm going to say no, just because I can't see Hollywood doing it that way.
Okay, what about Gigantor?
If Gigantor was done in Japan by a Japanese cast
No,
and
here in the
crew,
States, no Japanese involvement. Okay,
mm-mm.
why?
Would you expect to keep the robot design close to the
Not necessarily. Just the title alone. You know, you have the IP. You can do whatever the hell you want with it. You know, so
you have to have a character called Dick Strong? And so
would you say no or yes?
Flint says Gigantor, yes. Mehmet says Gigantor, yes.
So you would greenlight it or not?
I'll tell you what, this isn't to suck up to you because you're the boss. Um, if you adapted the Antarctic Press version of Gigantor, yes.
Okay. What about the Impossibles?
Was that like Rope Man and
Mhm.
all those other characters? No,
Okay. Why?
it's too silly.
Okay. Too silly. What about the Galaxy Trio?
Yes.
Okay. Why? Oh, greenlit. Good.
You,
What about Hong Kong Fooey?
oh God, no. Oh hell no. You can
Okay.
barely show the original version on TV.
Why would you not greenlight it?
uh, for a lot of reasons. First of all, well, I mean, it was very much of its time. I mean, it was like a kung fu movies were big, but most kids couldn't see them because they were rated R. So you got that. Scatman Crothers, whoever you get to play Hong Kong Fooey, they're going to have to be doing an impression of Scatman Crothers pretty much. And then yeah, they're all of their time, but like Hong Kong Fooey, I don't think deserves an update. Also, bringing the AI question in, I've seen on going around social media, there's these really short AI generated shorts that look exactly like a Shaw Brothers movie, but it's like a kung fu warrior fighting a cat. And so but it looks like a real cat. And this real looking cat does all these like real kung fu moves. And then inevitably one of them ends up like blowing the other one up with a bazooka or throwing him off a cliff. And I don't think you need Hong Kong Fooey in a world where that's all over social media for free.
Well, it seems some people disagree with you. Okay, so
Well,
let's see here.
always disagrees with me. Fuck him.
What about wacky races?
Yes.
You do wacky races.
Not only will I do wacky races, I've seen AI shorts of fans who have made wacky races, and it's amazing. I don't.
Okay.
They were, and those were done back in the slop days when you might have had six fingers and not everything was perfect.
Okay. Let's see here. What about Inch High Private Eye?
Oh boy, that was my favorite cartoon when I was a little kid.
You think it would make a movie?
Huh?
You think you would make a good movie? Would you greenlight it?
It would.
Yes or no?
It's got a catchy.
100 million at stake here.
It's got a okay. So first, it's got a catchy title, and it would depend on who stars in it, how it's handled.
Yes, but just the idea alone, would you greenlight it?
Right. So Flint. Okay, so John Goodman doing the Fred Flintstone voice. If you're talking about that live action Flintstones, that was pushed really hard by the studio, and I don't think that they were able to carry it on into all the sequels. Underdog, he mentions Underdog.
Okay, so you would greenlight Inch High Private Eye?
I would. Okay, going back to your questions, Inside Private Eye, yes.
Okay. Funky Phantom.
Okay, so that one, based on that title, and based on how it could be updated, yes.
Hair Bear Bunch.
No. That was a product of the '60s, and I just based on the title and the design of the characters, people are not going to get it, and it's not worth educating them on.
Okay. Space Sentinels.
Space Sentinels. I don't even remember what that was, but I like the title.
It was a filmation series of a group of superheroes who.
Yeah. Hi, Ben's wife.
I want to show you what a good dad gets for Father's Day.
Oh my God!
Tomahawk, baby.
That's quite a piece of meat, Ben.
All right. It's one big piece of meat you got there.
That's what she said. Space Sentinels, yes, says Flynn. So.
Okay, yes or no?
Actually, Flynn disagrees with me on Hair Bear Bunch. And
Really?
Hair Bear Bunch was actually a tough one, but I understand why he's saying yes. But
Space Sentinels, yes. Okay. What about the original 1980s Dungeons and Dragons?
Yes, very much so.
Okay, good. Let's see what else. Visionaries.
No.
Why?
It's and don't get me wrong, I had Visionaries toys. The theme song was cool. There's a lot of cool things about Visionaries, but I just don't. It wasn't like a super successful toy line from what I remember, and I don't think it translates. Here's one for you in the chat, and I already know what the answer is going to be. Inhumanoids.
Humanoids, it depends on the tone. If you treat it like a totally R-rated monster movie, kaiju type movie, yes, I would do it. If you treat it like a silly ass cartoon, no.
You know what if I had like an infinite amount of money, I would pit the Inhumanoids against the Shogun Warriors.
Oh, that would be a rights nightmare for sure. That would definitely be a rights nightmare.
If I was Jeff Bezos and I found that $200 million in my couch, I'd be like, there you go. Well, how much do you need?
You more? Have FU money like Jeff Bezos said.
Yeah,
you do whatever the hell you want.
That would be just like FU money showering from the heavens. But man, that would be the movie I'd pay to see. Brave Star would make a great movie. Yes, it would.
What about Mask?
Well, okay, so you and Flint, I'm gonna throw some back at you. You and Flint.
Yes, I agree. Brave Star would be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It would be interesting as a live action movie for adults. And what about Black Star?
See, Black Star would be interesting. I don't know how well a movie that would make, though. I mean, it's very similar to actually John Carter, where you have an astronaut, or Buck Rogers, actually, except thrown in a fantasy world instead of a post-apocalyptic world.
Well, the thing is, the thing about the thing with Black Star is that, well, actually, you're right. You are actually right. That is I would pause on Black Star, but go ahead with Brave Star. So what was your other one?
Mask.
Okay, so I keep hearing about again, the older millennials keep saying like Mask. It's like because that's what they grew up with. It's like Masters of the Universe, Mask, G.I. Joe, Transformers, all like that's, and then maybe barely a tier below that, Thundercats and Silverhawks. That's kind of like their pantheon. And I'm going to say no to Mask because it was a dumb premise back in the day. And if you were
toys, the toys were great.
I didn't even think they were that cool.
I love the toys; they were great.
Yeah, I didn't even think they were that cool. Likewise, I think they overestimate. Okay, well, not to shoot on. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Thundercats.
Oh.
Live action.
No, so if it would again. Okay, so if Thundercats cost half of what, if Thundercats was made for half of what Masters of the Universe cost, and they did it as a streaming thing, then I would consider it as a maybe. But I would not redo what they did with Masters of the Universe with Thundercats, for God's sake. No.
Oh, really?
No.
It seems like that's one of the properties that everyone's been asking for, is to do with Thundercats.
They were asking for Masters of the Universe, but again, it was a way too expensive movie with way too much winking. And if you took Thundercats a little more seriously than the Masters of the Universe movie did, because the cartoon. Actually, I liked even though I was like a teenager when Thundercats came out, I liked Thundercats because even though they had the comedy relief character, the whole thing about it wasn't as silly. And then like there wasn't a lot of well, you and I, we go back to the old days of anime. Like that opening credit sequence was the first time I'd seen like American animators try to do something that looked like anime.
Mm-hmm.
So I have more affection for Thundercats, and plus it's got the sword and it's got a lot of other things that I just happen to like. Even though it's a little corny, even back then it was corny. I I lean towards it,
Green light a Thundercats movie.
but I wouldn't know because again we got names like Chitara and Lion O, and that whatever that freaking
I
comedy
don't think
relief
they're cool,
character.
man.
But back at that time, even as a teenager, I thought it was kind of neat. But so
Okay, what about Galaxy High?
Galaxy High,
Yes.
no. But you know what I would do?
What?
Space Academy.
Really? You do
Yes,
Space Academy?
I
Didn't they
would
do
not
Starfleet
do,
Academy already?
huh?
Didn't they do a Starfleet Academy already?
I would say, I would say you fucked that one up, but there's this other academy in space, and you don't have to do bell bottoms and big collars and everything. And
So you would green light that. What about Jason of Star Command then?
no,
You wouldn't do that one, huh?
no, no,
Even though they're in the same universe?
no. Jason of Star, okay, so I like Jason of Star Command more, and to this day I have a lot of love for Jason of Star Command more so than Space Academy. But if I had to put my money on something that I thought I could take into the 21st century, it'd be Space Academy. Not because Space Academy is better, it's just because it's an idea, the concept has more legs for a bigger audience.
What about Arc 2?
I was just going to say Arc 2 would be the other one that I would do.
Really? You
Yeah.
Arc 2?
Yeah, I think Arc 2. Again, you'd have to jazz a lot of it up, but the idea of climate, you could just say, hey, it's a climate change story, and then people start writing checks.
All right. What about the Snorks?
No.
No. Hey, the Smurfs, $1 billion movie.
Smart, yeah, again, smart. But you know what? The idea of well-designed characters living in a village that people would want to live in if they were Smurfs.
Hey, it was a very popular show at the time.
Yeah, no, I mean that is an evergreen idea. Just the idea of a cast of characters, like unified cast of characters of like the Smurfs. The Smurf designs are very pleasing to the eye.
You don't think the Snorks are?
Even if you didn't know what a Smurf was, if you saw a table full of them, I've got a photo of the guy who wrote and directed Star Crash. He was at some European sci-fi con, and they had like a table of Smurfs out there because they're big in Europe still. And he's like, so it's like the Star Crash guy looking at the Smurfs and smiling and all that. And I'm like, I get it. That is awesome right there.
Okay. Rainbow Bright.
No.
Okay. Why?
The rainbow thing carries too much baggage now.
Really? You think that's the reason?
That's my short answer. The other reason is like it's a child's doll and kid. So
But it had a very successful TV show.
that how long ago? 40 years now?
Yeah, but so there's a lot of this is nearly 50.
There's nothing about it that's worth bringing back. It's just a kid in a rainbow outfit. And believe me, you can see kids in rainbow outfits.
Okay, what about Strawberry Shortcake?
That's still going. We have books and stuff for Strawberry Shortcake.
Would that make a good live action movie?
No.
No. So you would not greenlight it.
No. Well, if you're talking about girls' property, okay, so
It'll attract all the little girls. They want to see movies too.
again, it depends on what you want to do with it. Like if you're just talking about a streaming cartoon, it's kind of already there. I don't
A live action.
see the problem with the movie is nobody but girls would go see that. Like even
I know
even
there's a movie called Barbie that made $1 billion.
yeah, and that's like 5 generations of old women and young women. Like what didn't Becky go see that movie?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so it's women's actually that it's even like the boomer. She's not really even a boomer. There are boomers that are Barbie goes back to like the 50s, right? Not just the 60s, but like the 50s. So that's like generations of women who are ready to see that movie. Um, Strawberry Shortcake is a Gen X millennial thing. No guy is going to go see that. Like you can make another good Disney princess movie, and boys will go see that too
Hey,
because
well, I mean, you greenlit a lot of boys movies. Why aren't you greenlighting any girl movies? Are you misogynist here?
no, it's a common knowledge in the book industry. Well, it was until they tried to make it not that girls will read boys' books, but boys won't read girls' books.
Okay.
And so, and like if you, but boys will go see a Disney princess movie if there's a promise of like enough action, comedy, at least one badass character that they can hang their hats on. Um, boys went to go see Frozen. The songs were good, so boys went to go see Frozen and some of the other Disney princess movies, but not to the degree that girls did. And so you can't. But Strawberry Shortcake is like, first of all, it's young girls, and then like zero boys are going to want to see. Well, I mean, there'll be that percentage that's less than 10% that will go see it, but we can't afford to spend money just because for those 100 kids.
Well, I can understand that. Okay, what about gargoyles?
Maybe.
Yeah, you can't do it. Maybe it's gonna be yes or no.
Okay, well, let me ask you: are you talking just animated or live action?
The animated series from Disney.
No, I mean, are you talking about a live action?
Yeah, it's a live action, full big budget movie.
Yes, with a question mark on it. Did you know that they like in the last 3 years released a Gargoyles Little Golden Book?
I had no
Yeah,
idea.
yeah. I
Wow.
mean, there released a lot of stuff that you'd be
Yeah, but
surprised.
do you think it would make? Do you think that IP would be successful today?
It has the potential to be successful. Yes.
Okay, very good then. So we're greenlit on that one. Let's see what else. Can you think of anything? What about
Yeah, I
uh,
know. I
what
know.
about Star Crash?
I'm going to put my own money into that one. So just take
You
that
think
right off.
you
Take
think
it right off the table.
you think a reboot would resonate with today's audiences?
So we'll get to my thoughts on that, but I mean it's you have to understand what the expectations are too, because it's not going to be like even though Grogu and even if I spent a quarter of what they spent on the Mandalorian and Grogu, and the Mandalorian and Grogu
What,
made
what if you had a $200 million budget?
to do Star Crash.
Yeah,
The thing is, Star Crash doesn't need to be done on a $200 million
but
budget.
what if you got one? I mean, what would you do differently that would make it resonate with today's audiences?
Star Crash would not be successful on any level if you spent $200 million on it.
You don't think so?
No, but I think there's an audience for it. Like the audience that feels betrayed by the way Disney's handled Star Wars, the audience that feels the audience that kind of sort of likes the pulpier elements of Avatar, the audience that uh, and again it depends on how you handle it, but there is an audience for it. But like if you made it low budget, there's there are tools at your disposal now that may or may not include AI. It includes AI that you could do Star Crash on a very low budget, and even if it made the catering budget for Mandalorian Grogu back, it would be successful.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's not going to be like a cultural, like this giant rock falling out of the sky and changing culture forever the way Star Wars did. It would just be like, hey, I had a really pleasant, fun time watching a pulp sci-fi story. I don't do Star Crash on a low budget. Well, I mean, there's low budget and there's no budget.
I agree. I think you had a kick-ass storyline, and you'll go into the sex appeal of what Star Crash is.
Yeah.
And you make it, like you said, a rollicking outer space adventure. I think people would love it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say make it on a low budget, but just don't play it like it's cheap camp. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. I say the story has to be,
Yeah. I mean, but don't make it like, oh, look at these, Roger Corman looking sets and Roger Corman looking rockets, and we recycled footage from the original Star Crash and Battle Beyond the Stars. No, I mean, treat it seriously and respect, because I don't know how much you want to talk about Star Crash, because
well, people appreciate what, like you say, it's all about sincerity. People
Right.
When you're sincere, they can tell when it's just a cash grab, and when it's you're taking the source material seriously.
Right.
You respect that.
So Flint's asking, like, who do you cast as Stella Star? I've said this before, and he disagrees with me, but he doesn't. I guarantee you, he doesn't know who I'm talking about. You could go to India and pick one of the Bollywood queens. You'd immediately have an international audience for it. Just the announcement that so and so is starring in an American production, and most of them are excellent actresses, absolutely beautiful, are not going to mouth off and say dumb shit to the press. See, he's already saying no. But I would say one of the Bollywood stars, or find just casting, call it, but anyway, yeah, I mean, and I would also, Bollywood is only big in India. Well, it's also big in the UK. I mean, let's put it this way. I mean, Priyanka Chopra's a star. She's just been in some pretty crappy
Well, I mean,
American productions.
there's only been a few Bollywood movies that have been successful. And I'm not even sure if you can count them as Bollywood, like RRR.
That's an Indian movie with a lot of Bollywood tropes.
Yeah, but I'm not sure it's like a true Bollywood movie.
No, it isn't.
Okay.
Right. So I'm not saying like that you make Star Crash the remake. I'm not saying that you make the reboot a Bollywood movie, like a Bollywood movie. I'm saying you find a Bollywood star who you could cast front, a beautiful Bollywood star, and there's a dozen of them that would line up to do that, and I think they would be okay. So he disagrees with me still, but I mean, Carolyn Monroe wasn't exactly like a huge star when she starred in that movie in Star Crash either. I mean,
she actually had a name for herself already by that time.
Well, I mean, like her big movies.
Yeah, she wasn't a big international star, but
no, I mean, she had a bit. At that time, she had a bit part in
The Spy Who Loved Me.
She had a bit part in The Spy Who Loved Me. Technically a Bond girl. She had a bit part
in Golden Voyage of Sinbad.
She had a bit part. Well, I mean, she was the female lead in Golden Voyage of Sinbad, but she didn't say much. Right. And so I mean, like, to me, a huge star in Bollywood would be like about the same level. Like Priyanka Chopra, she's too old now. She still looks great, but she's had like so much work done on her face that I wouldn't cast her unless she really wanted to do it or whatever.
But, all right, moving on.
Please,
we should just do a show on Star Crash. You know,
I'll
just
be here for that. I
you know,
got
we
the
do a
T-shirt for it.
retrospective on that movie because for some reason it's as silly a movie as that is. I can't get it out of my mind. It's one of those things that just like a mind worm, you know, because I've seen it so many times, you know, and as cheesy and as ridiculous as that movie is, I love it.
Well,
It's just an over the top silly, you know, adventure, you know, that I could tell had they had a bigger budget would have been an awesome looking, you know, movie. But you know, I appreciated the sincerity that went into making this movie. You know,
so
yes, it's a Star Wars cash in, you know, but you know, it's unapologetically its own thing. That's what I
but
love.
Flint's saying like Zendaya or Kelly Marie Tran. He's trolling me. Uh, well,
Don't,
why don't we get Rachel Zegler while we're at it, or that Chaka-looking chick who's playing Supergirl while we're at it? So,
all right, so let's continue on. What about Groovy Ghoulies? Do you think
no,
it could hold up? Do you think that'd be kind of a movie that people would go see?
no. But I'll tell you, you know what? You know what I would consider
What?
Banana Splits.
They did a movie of that already.
A real Banana Splits movie, not a script that they had in their drawer for Five Nights at
No, we're
Freddy's.
not talking about. We're talking about IPs that have never had live action movies.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that I mean that
But
that was literally like something they found in the drawer, and said Five Nights at Freddy's.
yes, but they made the movie. So, like I said, it doesn't matter. It exists.
What century are you living in, Flint? That the Groovy Ghoulies would be a 3D? Are you talking about 3D animation, or actually put on 3D glasses like nobody does anymore in the theater? So
All
anyway,
right. Well, I think it's getting. We've been on for 2 hours. I think it's to.
no more. Okay, so I got one that we didn't mention.
Okay.
It doesn't follow your rules, but it's one that I think needs to be reconsidered. And this falls under the purview of been done before, but never been done right. So we could, yeah, if you can. Well, you know what? Well, why would you do Groovy Ghoulies if you already have like Hotel
Groovy
Transylvania?
Ghoulies is awesome.
Groovy Ghoulies. I mean, Hotel Transylvania is basically the Groovy Ghoulies. It's like when once you've got the modern version of something from that we liked when we were kids, I don't think
Yeah,
there's
I
anything
think I
in
could see
doing
that.
the original.
As a Hollywood executive, I probably could see that. You know,
Yeah.
we said, well, we already did it with Hotel Transylvania, right?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that it's like there's a very straight line to whatever this popular version is now, and it's like it just knocked out the Aragon's already being remade.
Yeah, and besides, it already has a movie. We're not
Well, no,
counting.
Aragon's got a movie, but they're remaking they're redoing it faithful as a
Okay,
streaming.
well, let me. So with Marvel and DC crashing and burning, you know, let's name some. I'm going to name some superheroes that I think, you know, would you greenlight as movies?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let me throw this. So let me go on the back of the setup I just had. I would say that the Power Rangers need like a complete reboot.
Well, they've already done two movies, so you know, I
Three.
would agree with you, but they've already done two movies.
But first, not only were those two movies not even faithful, the two movies were not faithful to the Super.
Oh, I agree with you, but it's already been done, so we can't count those.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to come out of nowhere, and those were done cheap, all those except for that last one, which I think they spent some money on, but they didn't. None of those movies delivered what people wanted to see, and part of the problem was with those.
Yeah, but those Power Rangers is a well-known IP. So, you know, I'm talking about IPs that are underrated, haven't had a chance, that you think would make good live action movies that would resonate with modern audiences. Like, you know, you have the power to say yes or no, you know, and that's the thing is that, you know, Power Rangers, it's been around for a long time, you know, and people are very familiar with it.
Nonstop, too.
Yeah.
It never really went away. I mean, there was a pause, but not like some of these others, like Doctor Who, that stayed out of the eye for a decade.
Okay, so Plastic Man.
Oh wow!
It's been a cartoon show for sure. Never been a live action movie. Never appeared on the screen.
Am I just imagining it because everybody said it would be perfect, or did they? Was Flint could probably answer this question.
My understanding is that Plastic Man is in public domain, at least the Jack Cole Golden Age version of it.
Wasn't there talk about doing like one with Jim Carrey or something like that?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Okay, so I'll tell you what. I would redo the mask before I do Plastic Man.
Okay. What about the question?
No, because everybody who's seen Watchmen is going to think he's the ripoff.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean that's the John Carter problem. Was that everything you saw from Star Wars movies, people were saying like, "Oh, John Carter's ripping this off." Same thing with Judge Dredd and Terminator and RoboCop. All the stuff from Terminator and RoboCop that they borrowed from Judge Dredd. It's like people, when the Dredd movies came along, people were like, "Oh."
Okay, I'll give you that. All right. So what about? Let's see here.
Flint says he's going to go off swimming. He's probably going to do it with some beer. He says, "Enjoy your massive meat stick, Ben."
It is a massive meat stick.
Get your mouth around that.
Yes, I think Space Ghost would just count as one IP.
Yeah, why would it be more than one? Why would it be more than one? It's just a.
Okay, so let's talk about other comic book superhero characters that you think, yes or no, would make a good movie. Nexus.
No.
No. Why?
Everything about it's too complicated.
Really?
It was a.
Do you think people would like a complicated superhero story?
No, Nexus was popular as an indie comic back in the day. Part of it was the unbelievably streamlined artwork by Steve Rude. People like, he was a cartoonist, and then the story and the premise and everything about it, it appealed to comic fans who at that time wanted to do a deep dive and live in that world. So whatever effort you put into getting into it, you got that back out of it. And most people are like dicking around on their phones while they're watching the screen. They're not going to focus that. It's too hard science, for as weird as it sounds. If you've ever seen Nexus, it's too hard science fiction for modern audiences.
Okay, so I understand that. What about the Badger?
We're going to do all the Dark Horse characters. We're going to go through the Dark Horse universe too.
No, Badger wasn't Dark Horse. That was First Comics, I think. Those may be too obscure. I mean, I think I'm just pulling out characters that maybe
again,
you're familiar with them.
Okay, you know what?
Would not be.
Okay, I'm going to say Badger no, and why? Because I think people are going to just assume it's a Wolverine ripoff.
Well, I bet a lot of people didn't think of Warrior Nun. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, no, like, well, some of this stuff, like when I say this, I'm thinking of like I'm doing the Call Me Chato thing where I'm thinking of a studio executive. But, I like Chato, but I mean I like when he does that. Like as a studio executive, I wouldn't do that. So I mean, I believe me, like whatever you guys are thinking, I know the history of these characters, and I've probably read their books. I know who's a ripoff of who, and I know who isn't. But I'm just saying, the studio executive might perceive some of these characters as, too close to something else, and they would think that the audience would perceive it as too close to something else.
Well, my own opinion is that there's a ton of IPs out there. Okay, really, there's a lot of them. Okay, very few of them ever get developed. I've been lucky. I had one of my characters develop, Warrior Nun.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have preferred it had been a movie, and I would have preferred it was closer to the comic book. But that wasn't for me to decide. Yeah. But I am fortunate enough to have one of my creations be adapted, into another medium, and that is a big, big deal in my
Sure.
opinion. So it's easy to say what might be good as an IP. It's much harder to implement that. you know, so in my estimation, there's plenty of good IPs out there. It's just how you handle it.
Right.
I create my own IPs. You create IPs. We both have the dream of
Mhm.
maybe someday seeing it adapted into another medium and becoming a huge success and garnering worldwide recognition.
Mhm.
you know, so my feeling is that if you're a creator out there, you have an idea, you just to develop it and put it out there. You may be the next Backrooms or the next Obsession or the next, whatever the big, huge IP is, because people are hungry for new ideas and new things.
Mhm.
So I love old IPs I grew up with. I would love to see them being developed into something else. But since I don't control them, I have very little power to decide that fate, other than letting them know, hey, I would love to see, you know, a Space Ghost movie or a Funky Phantom movie or whatever, a
Right.
white racist movie. So it's fun to talk about these things because it's in the hopes that you guys out there who are creators who have the next idea in your head, you should just go ahead and get it done and get it out there. you know
Well, and again, okay, so here comes the AI question. So let's pretend, let's do the John Lennon thing and imagine that there's a world where they're not building data centers and they're not using up all our water, and the people who run the big AI companies aren't sociopaths, and, and let's just say you downloaded a large language model onto your computer, you trained it yourself, and it takes exactly as much electricity as we're using now to talk to each other to create an AI version of something you want to do. And let's also say, like, you train the model, like like you, whether it's, I mean, it would be stolen in the respect that, like, maybe like you don't own the IP. Let's say like the guy who did the Wacky Races one. Let's say you do it like as a fan film. You're not going to make any money off of it. You bought all the comic books that you scanned yourself, and PDFs that you have of the images and the artwork and everything else. It's you at least bought the physical version of that or the digital version of that. So and you're using that to train the
yeah,
model. This
you
is a hypothetical because it's a sensitive subject. Let's use that as a hypothetical thing and take all the arguments off the table. So I have seen these things. I have seen there's a guy called Sour Mood on Facebook who's been doing photorealistic images of the Micronauts, Mask, GI Joe, and some of his own stuff. He did the Endeavor, the ship from the Micronauts that Michael Golden drew in the comic. It looks like it's absolutely real.
can take those 3D images and move them.
And
It's
he's done
very
it.
well.
He did a 10
Entire
sec-
comic book.
he did a 10-second clip, 50-second clip of one of the Micronauts pinned to a pillar, and Baron Carzo coming up to him in centaur form and talking to him. And whatever you think of Slop from like 2 years ago or a year ago with the six fingers and all, this looked like something. What I've seen enough clips of the Masters of the Universe movie. I would put this up against that. I don't know if it would project as well on a big screen in 4K or whatever, but to my mind, I am never going to see a Micronauts movie that faithful, looking that awesome as what this guy did on his computer, on his laptop. And he did it out of like hours and hours of unpaid love. And
Well, that's why they're called fans.
yeah, and I mean, if whatever stolen IP, I mean, fan films are essentially stolen IP too, and and so I it depends on whether you monetize it or not, or how you monetize it. But I'm just saying, like, as the work as it exists, however it came to be, it's amazing. And I've seen people do things for other dead franchises, like and I'm saying this out of love, okay? I love Doc Savage. The Doc Savage group on Facebook is called Flea Run, and there's a couple of others. And the paperbacks came out started coming out in the 60s, and there's been reprints, there have been reissues, there's been new stories by Will Murray. I know all of these things because as a fan, but things are starting to roll. It feels like they're rolling to a stop. The original fans who were into it before me, we're talking about guys in their 80s, 70s and 80s. They're old men, and I'm not any spring chicken either. I'm pushing 60, and there's nobody younger than us who are coming in and doing some new stuff. But periodically, somebody will try to do like, hey, here's a new Doc Savage cover. What if Doc Savage fought the Frankenstein's monster? And what if Doc Savage fought the UFO or something? And they'll do like a CGI cover that looks, I mean, it's not perfect, but it looks like it could be, like if they were going to reboot the line, this looks like it could be a cover. And then like immediately, 7 guys come in. Oh, it's AI slop. Get this guy out of the group. He should be banned. It's stolen. Blah 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 blah. And it's like you're trying to do something new for this franchise that's virtually dead. And that same thing's happening in the public domain groups. And I don't even know how that's. Well, I understand how people could perceive that stolen, but I mean, they're trying to make new characters out of the public domain guys by using AI and redesign the costumes and reimagine them as updated. I don't some of them look really good to me, but I don't think that they have like mass appeal. But what I'm saying is, and final example, there's a guy on YouTube there was a Flash Gordon. Filmation made a Flash Gordon animated movie in the late 70s, and it was chopped up to be the first few episodes of the Flash Gordon Filmation TV show. And there's a guy on YouTube who's taking in 20-minute chunks the Flash Gordon movie and redoing it literally shot for shot with AI. And I mean, it's the same angle, it's the same perspective, it's the same recycled, rotoscope shots the Filmation used. And it's so perfect that it syncs up to the soundtrack of the Filmation thing. So the mouth, it's that voice. It's all the cartoon voice actors' mouths. It's their voices with the mouths moving to it. It's not perfect. Some of the shots are weird. Some of the images slide. There's lots of flaws. But the animation for that time wasn't perfect either. It was Saturday morning cartoon. And my point is that just out of love, with no money and no chance of making money on it, just to show that it can be done, this guy's doing it. And in my opinion, it looks amazing. And it's the Flash Gordon. It's the closest you're going to get to Alex Raymond. If they ever do another Flash Gordon movie again, it's probably going to be based off the 1980 movie, or it might be based off the Mad Cave version. But it's amazing. And again, it's got weird pauses because the original animation had weird pauses, and you really notice how weird the pauses were when you see people looking real versus like cell animated characters. But I'm just saying, like, with AI, you could take almost any franchise now, make it look with a minimum budget, make it look very real, keep it as faithful to the source material as you want, and still try to update it for modern audiences. Like I said, with the Wacky Races too. And there was a guy doing what was it? He was doing like that, the very, very first AI slop era videos put up they were like the Super Panavision versions of old franchises. Like, what would Thundar the Barbarian look as a 1950s live action movie? And what would Vampirella look like as a 1950? They all were made to look like Star Wars. It's a guy in a goofy looking costume, and the lighting was very Technicolor, and the sets were very cardboard. So it's been done. and now you could do it in a much better way. And the question now is like, what's to stop the fans from making their own fan films that would make fans happy?
Well, you bring up a lot of good points. It's a brave new world for sure.
Mhm.
AI is definitely encroaching on our everyday lives.
Right.
It's something that you can't stop. It's there. You either accept it or you don't. It's really up to you. You're probably using AI without even realizing it. And the fact of the matter is that this does open the gates to people who normally don't have any creative, ability to be able to be creative.
Mhm.
That's what we want. We want people to be creative. The only thing stopping them is our copyright and trademark laws. You
Right.
know, at any time, any people who own these trademark and copyright laws can shut down any production they want, whether
Yeah.
you make money or not. But
Right.
that's not going to stop people from doing it because
Right.
they're doing it, like you said, out of love. And it's hard to stamp down something that people love. Okay.
Right.
It's very difficult, almost impossible, because love is one of those universal emotions that is part of us and cannot be denied.
Mhm.
So that's why people do it, because they want to not only show off, their love for something that they really genuinely enjoy, but they want to share it with everybody. They could do this on their own and not have to share it with anybody,
Yeah.
and no one will be the wiser. Okay.
Right.
But they're willing to share it because that's how much they love this IP.
Yeah.
You're right about that, for sure. The thing is that I have something to, I don't have difficulty with this, but my feeling is that if you're going to spend that kind of time creating something, from somebody else, then create something new,
Right.
something original. Take that love, channel it into something that you can own, that you can share without any fear of somebody coming in and saying, no, you can't do that.
Right.
The reason I did, reason I create is because I want to create characters, people that I like, that I share with people that I can exploit. Simple as that. That's the reason I do it. If you're a real true artist, okay, you do art because for art's sake.
Right.
But if you're a commercial artist, you're doing it to make money. Okay.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to. You want to make a living doing this.
Right.
And that's where AI comes in. It allows you to do things that normally either it would be prohibitive cost wise, or skill wise.
Right.
So, I just wanted to put that out there, let people know that this is something that you have control over. Now, before we go, there's a couple of questions I want to answer before we leave.
Okay.
Ben, how do you feel about Marvel's MongaVerse making a return? I love it. It's great. I hope it's successful enough that Marvel will keep doing it.
Are you going to get a royalty?
I don't know. I don't care. If I do, fantastic. If I don't care.
Okay.
It's up to them to decide. I'm not going to make a big stink about it because, in the end, it belongs to them. I have no control over it. But I am very, very surprised that they did it. First of all,
Yeah.
because something I created 25 years ago is worthy enough for Marvel to bring back.
Well, I mean, after they saw
really
One
good.
Piece, with the success of One Piece and everything else, it seems like they were dumb not to do it sooner. But
Well, I think whatever the reason is, it's they did it.
maybe
And
they thought you were dead.
huh?
Maybe they thought you were dead.
I highly doubt it.
You're not gonna bother us.
So
So there's a
question before we go.
there's a super old question from Mehmet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You held that. Okay, go ahead.
Says if someone creates an original character and wants the character to become part of Antarctic Press universe, what is usually the process? Well, the usual process is you create it. The thing is, it doesn't really become part of the Antarctic Press universe unless you want it to be. Okay, we don't control it. We don't own it. Okay, we're more than happy to let it become part of our universe if you wanted to do it. But we don't own it. We don't control it. So We do let creators borrow characters from AP, for use in their own book without any cost to them. The only caveat is that you allow us to use the story in one of our books. But other than that, it's free to use. You're welcome to use it. You're welcome to cross over with your own characters. Because I want to make this fun for everyone. I want something that's
clarify pretty hard there, Ben, because that you're talking about your stuff and you're talking about the Superverse, because you can't take a Fred Perry character and go do it.
Yes, it has to be something that we control. We don't control Gold Digger.
Yeah, and you can't, or even like
can't use any character that AP directly does not control. So you may want to ask ahead of time, if we own this character or not.
Yeah, because chances are, if it's one of your characters, it'll be fine. But anything by any of the other creators, like Fred or
let me put
it, or
it can be any of my characters that I directly control.
Right, and
permission to use it.
Way off limits if it appeared if you saw the character in Exciting Comics or Planet. Or,
right. So just to double check, you may want to write to me to double check to make sure that it's owned by us or owned by me.
So also, I know it's been a while since you pushed the Superverse thing, but like, didn't you have you had a sheet you could download from your website?
Mm-hmm.
Where you put a picture of the character and put their stats.
I haven't added anything new because nobody sent anything new.
But that was like the way to do it. Like my Jesse Sanchez, technically, I sent him in the stat sheet and he included it. And so if I
did it, if I get a stat sheet, you can download it on benduncomics.com, fill it out, send it in, and I'll add it to the Superverse.
Right, but that just gets you like part of you're just titled as part of the Superverse, but also like I can't technically, Mehmet, I couldn't use your character. I'd have to ask you like, oh, how do you do, fellow Superverse member?
Mm-hmm.
Can I use your character in my story? And you'd have to do the same for me, even though it's like already registered in the Superverse.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like it's sort of a gentle person's club where we can
we're all,
communication or open.
We're all one big happy Starfleet.
Or Space Academy.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up.
Hey, we got one more.
Oh, we got one more. What is it?
We're doing the Irish goodbye.
They brought back a character with the Marvel and DC crossover of Batman and Deadpool comic called the Dark Claw. Was that Deadpool? I thought it was Wolverine. Oh, okay. I didn't know it was Deadpool. I thought it was Wolverine. Am I wrong?
I don't know. I haven't read any of these comics.
All right. Well, anyway, we'll take your word for it.
Yeah. The last comic I read was Shaman Kane.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. We really appreciate it. We'll hope to. We didn't talk about any dads in comics, but that's okay. We'll. It probably would have been a boring subject to talk anyway. But anyway,
Mother's Day to the dads. Most of the dads in comics are dead anyway, or they're evil. So.
Well, there's a couple of comics, like Reed Richards is a dad, and
so is Superman's dad. But after
Superman,
that, it's like
Superman's dead.
Jeremy Feeple's dad is a deadbeat dad, often fighting with rats.
Well, anyway, let's go ahead and end the stream now. Thanks you everyone for joining us. You've all been fantastic. Hopefully we'll do it again next week. And until next time, this is the AP Dojo. Me and your friend Steve-O signing off.